talk about what we really do at Eden Valley, but I'll just tell you a little bit on the setup, the setting of our work there. And I want to say a little bit about my journey as we begin today. I was actually just 17 years old, sitting in the auditorium across the road. So yes, at 17 I was there sitting, and it's so interesting, my journey on this path, because there was a physician, a doctor came, and she was giving some presentations to all of us, the student body of NCU, and we were there listening. And somehow she spoke about, conventional in medicine and the practices. Then she started quoting and talking a lot about God's principles and started quoting from some books as well. And that really got my attention. And one of the books that I read at that time, I read through it at that time, and I don't know how many times after I've read it and still reading more, is Ministry of Healing. And she quoted a lot from Ministry of Healing. And sitting there right in the auditorium, I said, I need to talk to her, because it's been some time that my focus was at the time on theology, but I really had a deep passion for health. And I wanted to learn so much more and on health and how to use that in ministry. Well, I spoke to her at the end of the presentation and asked her some questions, and that started my journey, because she talked to me about some of the health institutions in the United States, and that pricked me, and I'll tell you more about that just a little later. But Eden Valley, as we were asked to talk about our work, what we do there in that setting. We have a 14-day program. Dr. Kelly spoke about a 10-day and 16-day. We are 2 weeks, full 2 weeks, and we will flesh that out. I'll have Dr. Keith to take time to flesh that out for you. So just to give you a good idea of the, it's on this set down here. Not sure. If you want to help me, that's fine, in the interest of time. It's on and... Okay. All right. Did you change that? All right, let me try. Okay, there's nothing. So if you want to check it out, you can, and you can keep helping me. So the pictures you're seeing, the Rocky Mountains there in Colorado, it's a setting I think God brought together. This was 63 years ago when Eden Valley was started. 63 years ago. So when I started learning about the work of Eden Valley, just at the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, we are able to take our guests up there every session. It's just 35-40 minutes away. So close to us. Now, we can keep changing. I want to show you a little bit more of some of the things that we're doing, the secret of success, and how God's been helping us in that work there at Eden Valley, is to consider the many ways that He's been blessing this ministry for 63 years. So, yeah, I'll just give you my hand for now until you figure that out. That's the indication, okay? My hand raised. Lloyd, you can help me out. Okay, so that's our campus. That's our campus, and that's a little bit of the setup there. So the wellness center is there. We do operate a huge farm that we supply 8 farmers markets with our produce, and produce going straight from the field to the plate. So Dr. Keith gonna get into that for you. And this is a little bit more of the detail slide of the campus and the setup and the operations that we have there. Now, what I want you to consider this afternoon, as we've been talking about lifestyle medicine, it is a process. And it is a beautiful thing when we trust and when we believe what God has given. And that is a very vital part of our work. That's one of the buildings that we operate from here in the center. So, going back there, Lloyd, we want to answer this question. Now, this picture just shows a little bit of some of the animals that walks through the campus daily sometimes. These are elks, and they come through in the winter and also in the springtime. So the next picture is a video which the gentleman told me that they'll be able to play. So this video gives you a 4-minute view of Eden Valley, and then we're going to flesh it out by explaining how we really operate. So let's go ahead and take that. While they're
For over 60 years, Eden Valley has seen the power of God transform lives. With a Christian perspective on health and wellness, it offers natural treatments and biblical wisdom for your total body, mind, and spirit. During the fall of 1961, Pete and Ann Boris, together with Harold and Effie Grossball, attended a supporting ministries convention at Oak Haven in Michigan, where they were deeply impressed that they should open a self-supporting institution dedicated to spiritual growth. In 1962, Eden Valley Institute of Wellness opened its doors at the foothills of the Rocky Mountains National Park. It all started with a nursing home. Later, a medical missionary training school was created to prepare young generations for missionary fieldwork. A lifestyle center was established a few years later. Implementing God's natural laws of health, the guests experience rest, healing, and peace in the beautiful nature surrounding the property. More importantly, they were brought to the knowledge of Jesus, who can give true healing, both physically and spiritually.
God designed our bodies with the incredible ability to heal themselves when given the right conditions. And so at Eden Valley, we seek to incorporate these ideal conditions for the healing of our guests.
Today, the Lifestyle Center still uses simple treatments that have brought health and happiness to thousands of people over the years. These treatments include hydrotherapy, fomentations, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, herb supplements, water, lots of water, exercise, proper rest, and plant-based nutrition.
Physically, I just feel like a new person. I can walk 2 or 3 miles with no problem. When I first got here, every step that I took, I'd have to take a breath and stop for a moment before the next step. Our energy has gone up, and our mental stamina is just, everybody's changed. They don't look the same.
The tumor shrank by 87% the first time I was checked. So then the next day when they checked me, 95% gone. You're not just being told what to do, you're being taught why to do it. And that makes all the difference.
At Eden Valley, students come from all over the world to learn hands-on how to become medical missionary evangelists. The program covers principles of medical missionary work and an understanding of Christ's healing methods for soul winning. The students acquire practical skills in both disease-preventing natural treatments and biblical knowledge.
Before I came to Eden Valley, I was in Southeast Asia for several years, and I saw a lot of things, and so many times I thought, I wish I knew how I could help these sick people. But I didn't have the skills and I didn't have the training. When I left Asia, I found Eden Valley, and it was exactly what I was looking for, because it trained me to learn all of those things that I had wanted to learn for so long. Simple things that sometimes we take for granted that I knew would be able to help people all around the world.
Besides the 6-month medical missionary training program, Eden Valley also offers a 9-month comprehensive farming program.
The world is in short supply of farmers. We believe it is our responsibility to share the knowledge and help prepare workers who understand sustainable farming in such a critical time.
In the Agricultural Leadership Training Program, students learn all aspects of sustainable farming and farm management. Courses include areas such as greenhouse and field crop production methods, soil science, equipment repair and maintenance, basic accounting, marketing, Christian leadership, and more. Eden Valley Farm supplies pesticide-free produce for the Lifestyle Center and 8 local farmers markets, being a blessing to the community. Eden Valley also supports ministries in India, Tanzania, Mexico, Hungary, and the Dominican Republic. With the mission of transforming lives through scripture-based education, natural remedies, and spiritual nourishment, Eden Valley is a place of healing where every guest, student, or community member can experience God's love in a practical, tangible way.
Okay, so that's in a nutshell a lot of what we do. I want to say something about this slide, and we're going to have Dr. Keith come and take some time here. You know, while I was reflecting on my time at 17, this doctor in the auditorium at the NCU, just across the road, she said something to me that stayed with me until now, since I was 17. As a physician, she said, I have studied and I have worked as a physician in hospitals. And the more I study and understand the connection that God gives to every physician, understanding His Word, and then she said, there's 5 books I want you to read and put that in your ministry. Whatever you do, a medical doctor, a pastor, whatever you do, a nurse, whatever work you do, think about these books. They're right on the screen today. And from that age, I started reading and thinking, and so as you'll hear a little bit of the work that we do medically working with guests, I want to encourage us today that God has given us more than we know, more than we can even, more than we think that we have. I remember a sermon, someone was presenting about what the people, God's children, you and I, what we have, we don't even recognize. And I have come to understand more and more from, biblically speaking, from the Word of God, and these 5 books, if we read, live, from knowledge to action is part of our, the summit, and if we read, understand, use these principles as God has given, the most powerful lifestyle medicine, whatever other title you want to give it, the most amazing work can be done, not just here in Jamaica, but around the world. And so we're going to flesh that out for the rest of our time with you. Now, Dr. Lloyd, while you were talking about bio, folks, I saw a few folks looking. It's not in the book, so I'm going to introduce Dr. Keith a little more for you all. So he was born and raised until 11 years in southern Colorado, so that's where he was born until later. He still has a passion for climbing Colorado's 58 peaks. 58 peaks, and they are 14,000 feet tall. Don't be fooled. He has climbed already 54 of them. And he can tell you more about that. He really has a passion for climbing and exercise, and the old works. Now, his other hobby of snow skiing began in Tennessee, to where his parents moved back and where he attended high school and college near Chattanooga. He earned his MD at Loma Linda University, and while he continues to be an emergency department doctor. Since the 1990s, he has had a great interest in whole plant-based cooking since high school, and has lectured internationally on preventive and lifestyle medicine also in the 90s. Being medical director at Eden Valley since 2015, so over 10 years now, it has been his pleasure seeing guests not only improve their physical health, but also gain more peace and hope as they have come to know God better for who He really is. So Dr. Keith comes to us today being our medical director there at Eden Valley, loving the patients, loving to work with them, and also loving to practice these principles. Dr. Keith, take it away from here and tell us about these components of success in the work of Eden Valley.
Thank you, Shaniel. And it's a pleasure having Shaniel as our president at Eden Valley, and under his direction, the Eden Valley continues to move forward. So about 3 weeks later, it was given our mission. The topic was phrased at that time is, why is Eden Valley successful? That's been rephrased in fancier words in your program, but that's kind of the direction we were given. So Eden Valley Institute of Wellness, we'll look at the core components of success. It's a new slide. So the question comes up, well, success at what? And, what do you measure success by? So, it's a modern phenomenon that every corporation has a mission statement, right? So this is Eden Valley's mission statement. Our mission is to see lives formed by God's principles of education and healing, as revealed by divine inspiration. And of course, Shaniel showed there the core book, the Bible, and around it were 5 other very good books that we have a lot of divine inspiration, most of which was written over 2,000 years ago, and a lot of it was clearer light 120 years ago. And science, every year that goes by, science is just substantiating what was given our church 120 years ago. Next slide. So let's look at healing. Well, we'll look at the concept of healing. You remember the story in John chapter 5 of the man who had been, next slide, he had been by the pool of Bethesda 38 years. A certain man was there which had an infirmity 38 years. And what was that infirmity? He said, "Sir, I don't have anyone to take me to the pool." So he was paralyzed, at least from the waist down. And it's interesting, the next slide. Jesus didn't ask him, "Do you want to get well? Do you want to walk?" Jesus saw him lie. When Jesus saw him lie and knew that he had been now a long time in that case, he says unto them, "Wilt thou be made whole?" What an interesting question. And remember the paralytic, the other paralytic that was let down through the roof. And the four friends let him down. And what was Jesus' first statement to this man? "Son, thy sins be forgiven." And of course the Pharisees were upset because that seemed like blasphemy to him, because no one can forgive sins except God, but Jesus was God. That's the point, right? So Jesus then said, well, what's easier to say? Your sins be forgiven, or get up and walk, but that you may know that the Son of God has power on earth to heal men. Rise up and walk. So we see this healing concept. And next slide, the word often translated as to be made whole or healing is the same word in Greek, dysozo. Sometimes it's translated to be made whole, mind, body, and soul, and sometimes it's translated to be healed or heal. So Jesus taught us that everything is tied together, mind, body, soul, and if one aspect of our life is suffering, the other aspect suffers as well. And even, we were told this 120 years ago, but modern science has substantiated it, that the huge majority of physical illness is caused or exacerbated by mental turmoil, stress, guilt, shame. In fact, we now know, of course, we know antioxidants are good things. We eat sweet potatoes to get antioxidants, and all the reds and orange and a variety of vegetables because we get antioxidants. So oxidants are the bad things that can damage the lining of our arteries, leading to atherosclerosis. The fat and cholesterol that people are eating get incorporated into that scar. So oxidants are bad things. Antioxidants, of course, we want to get a lot of those, and we get those in vegetables and fruit. So it turns out that all of the negative emotions cause oxidation in our body. So fear, anger, guilt, shame, remorse. So Jesus was teaching us that we need to address all those things to be made whole. And interestingly, when I went through medical school in Loma Linda University in the 80s, the mission of Loma Linda University was, if we can go back one slide, Loma Linda's mission was to make man whole. And I looked it up today, and praise God, it is still the aim. It's not the mission statement, but it is the aim of Loma Linda University to make man whole. Well, let's advance 2 slides. So what are some core components of success for a kind of a large to medium or medium to large based lifestyle center? Now, of course, it is wonderful to have home-based wellness centers. People invite someone into their home, and with understanding the principles that we've been learning today, you can prepare healthy meals. You can help someone get out and walk and get in the fresh air and get restorative sleep. And just don't take 10% of the diabetics, if you're not fully trained, don't take the 1 in 10 diabetic that is a juvenile onset diabetic and tell them not to take their insulin, because that could be fatal, or they'll be in the hospital within a couple days. So you've got to have enough understanding. So 90% of diabetics, that's the type 2 diabetic, and that can be reversed. But the 10% of diabetics, absent that miracle, they need their insulin. But the obese adult that's on insulin because the doctor is lazy and the patient is lazy, they can get off their insulin. I've seen a 300-pound man at Eden Valley get off 100 units of insulin in 3 days. Totally off. And so anyway, be careful in your home setting if you're not a doctor. But Ellen White said we should have lifestyle centers outside every city. If you have to start as a home-based one, praise God. God be with you and bless you. So we're going to look at some components of Eden Valley. We can average 12 in our current facilities. We can handle like 12 guests plus their support person, their spouse or friend or something. Okay, so, and then some facilities can handle 20, like Uchee Pines might have 20 people at a time or so. So we have 10 components. Number one, we use the Word. Okay, we use the Bible. Psalm 107, verse 20, He sent forth His Word and healed them. He, God, sent forth His Word and healed them and delivered them from their destruction. So we can go to the next slide. We encourage people, our guests, lifestyle guests, to get up at like 5:30 get dressed, etc., have a little time for their own personal devotion. And then at 6:20, we have group Bible study where we are uplifting the gospel. We may go over the parable of the prodigal son. We point out that Jesus, the Pharisees accused Jesus of, you're spending time with publicans and sinners. And Jesus said, you're right. That's what I came to do, to save publicans and sinners. Anyway, we may go through that parable and we uplift the goodness of God, bringing them to an appreciation of God's true character. They also have a worship in the evening as well. So we're using God's word, and we believe that's just essential to success. Okay. Next slide. Guests say, which one is it? Four. Okay. Thank you. Guests, number 2, guests say that we genuinely love. I've heard many guests. If I've heard it once, I've heard it 20 times at least, that they've never felt so loved before. And it's true that every person who interacts with the guest, from their therapist to the one leading the worship in the morning, to me, to the one in the evening, to our beloved man who leads the exercise, to the farmers that they might meet on the road. Just everyone is genuinely friendly to our guests. Well, I remember one brother he was born in Bulgaria, the former Eastern Bloc, the satellite countries of the Soviet Union. He was, about my age. So born during the Cold War, grew up in the Adventist church in Bulgaria, behind the Iron Curtain. And he says, I've never seen love before coming to Eden Valley. And he was living in Canada at that time, going to the Adventist church. He says, I've never seen love before. And at the end of 1 week, he said, I'm still waiting to see if it's genuine. So at the end of the second week, 2 weeks now, at graduation, he said, okay, I've been here 2 weeks. It's genuine. So people don't feel like we're just, there taking care of them as a number or a duty. They feel a genuine concern and love. And we have heard that numerous times. Of course, John 13:35 says, forward one more. John 13:35 says, by this all men shall know that ye are my disciples if ye have love one to another. Number 3 is phrased really the same way. People say that they've never felt so prayed for before. Our lifestyle guests must have at least 5 prayers with them every single day. Again, from their own therapist to the day that I see them, 2 days a week on average, or I'll see them 3 times and pray with them. My wife, who leads the cognitive behavioral therapy, she prays with them. Of course, there's prayer at meals. There's anointing service made available to people at the end. And so they say they've never been prayed for so much before. And of course, the staff gets together and prays for each other and prays for the guests as well. So that's point number 3. And point number 4, we use God's true remedies, okay? And we'll cruise quickly to the next slide, the quote from Ministry of Healing, page 127. What are the 8 natural doctors? Pure air, sunlight, abstemiousness, abstaining from those things which are definitely harmful. Of course, that's alcohol, tobacco, right? Temperance, as we avoid alcohol. Those things which are definitely harmful, we totally avoid. Alcohol, tobacco, recreational drugs. There are over 800 studies around the world linking animal food with cancer. 800 studies around the world. The American Cancer Society comes out and flatly says that deli foods, sausage, anything wrapped in a stomach membrane, delicatessen type meats, are carcinogenic. So we can basically say that all meat, and yes, that includes the lamb, goat, fish, chicken, seafood. I'll throw cheese in there too. Cheese, the casein in cheese directly encourages tumor growth. Dr. Esselstyn and Dr. Campbell proved that. So basically cheese, the casein, turns on tumors. Just even less than 5% of a laboratory animal's calories for the day, just 5% of the calories per day will turn on a tumor, and you take away those 5% of calories and the tumor will stop growing. So basically, we have enough scientific evidence to say abstemiousness or abstaining from, it would be totally beneficial to abstain from meat, fish, chicken, seafood, cheese as well. So true remedies: pure air, sunlight, abstemiousness, rest, exercise, proper diet, the use of water, gratitude, rejoicing, and benevolence, and trust in God's love, and trust in God's love and care. These are health's greatest safeguard. Gratitude. They have proven that the attitude of gratitude will turn on natural killer cells to go attack abnormal cells, cancer cells, bacteria, etc. So we give our guests a lifestyle journal, day number 1, and the next morning we have a lecture talking about gratitude and encouraging them to, in their journal, every day list 5 new things for which they're grateful. Another quote, true remedies, we see again the remedies are repeated. And now I want to continue on with the quote. Every doctor should have a knowledge of nature's remedial agencies. Are you following along with me? Every doctor, every pastor, every Bible worker, every person should have a knowledge of nature's remedial agencies and how to apply them, not only for yourself, but that you can go to your neighbor and recommend some charcoal for their upset stomach or bad headache. You can put their feet in hot bath and hot water and some ice around their neck. Simple remedies. It's essential both to understand the principles involved in the treatment of the sick and to have a practical training that will enable one rightly to use this knowledge. Okay, so we'll look a little bit about the true remedies. We'll look at that acronym New Start. So New Start is just a great way to list the 8 natural remedies. So nutrition, exercise, water, sunlight. And now in Jamaica, you might be able to get enough sun if you actually sunbathed. How many of you actually get in a swimsuit and would sunbathe 30 minutes a day, or 30 minutes 3 times a week, once a month? How many in this room sunbathe once a week in a bathing suit? I see 1, 2, 3 hands. Okay. Now think of us poor people in North America. Your skin makes vitamin D, but only if the sun is 45 degrees in the sky or higher. So in Jamaica, sunbathing at 8 o'clock in the morning won't work. Okay, well, for us in North America, even Southern California, if you go out at lunchtime in November, December, January, February, Southern California, Northern Texas, the sun is not there, the sun is there. My shadow is longer than I am tall. Bermuda, I bet, you're equal with North Carolina. In Bermuda, December, January, February, the sun never gets high enough, not even at lunchtime, for your skin to make vitamin D. And then if we get sweaty in the summer, after we've sunbathed, you know, in Canada, United States, we go in and most people will take a shower and they will wash off the vitamin D that their skin just made before it can be absorbed into the bloodstream. So along with sunlight is just absolutely essential, but we are finding we need vitamin D supplementation because of all the things that I've just described. Vitamin D is so much more than bone health. Vitamin D is actually a hormone that boosts the immune system and modulates the immune system so that you can fight cancer or actually even reverse cancer by getting your vitamin D blood levels up. Temperance, of course, which Ellen White phrased as abstemiousness, we can call it self-responsibility. Not overeating is included in that, okay? Fresh air, rest, restorative sleep as one of the pillars in lifestyle medicine. And then last, but certainly not least, all of these are working together simultaneously, right? So trust in divine power, trust in God is essential. Now let's look at this in the context of the children of Israel. Next slide, because it's not working. Okay, next slide, please. In the back, next slide, please. Okay, in the children of Israel, with the children of Israel, we've been studying them this quarter, right? Okay. We've been studying them this quarter, so you'll realize they were just quick to believe God and never doubted. No. They were slow to believe and slow to unbelieve, or quick to unbelieve. So God needed to give them some cognitive behavioral therapy. Basically, they needed the whole new start, okay? So they were out in the fresh air. They were getting some ions crossing the Red Sea, getting some positive ions. And next slide. We'll go to the next slide. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Now you need to go back one. Okay, so what did he give them to eat? He gave them breadfruit. Okay, breadfruit from heaven. Okay, so Dr. Lloyd did a good job of quizzing us, and of course Dr. Kelly, but expanded on the diet. But I had the privilege of spending a day with Dr. Lloyd in Jamaica, 2 days. And the first night he introduced me to the Jamaican Trinity. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Well, I don't know. Okay, so anyway, ackee, plant-based, okay. Breadfruit and avocado, okay. So you can have a meal of that, nice balanced meal. Whole food, plant-based, okay. You've got everything you need. So basically we have a grain, a whole grain. God sent basically a grain. And if you look at any grain and look at the rough macronutrient distribution, like if you take oats or wheat or anything like that, it's about 15% protein, 15% fat, and 70% carbohydrate. And the carbohydrate is a nice complex carbohydrate that is slowly released. And our problem is that we mill it, and then it gives you a quick release instead of slow release. Now, here we can bring in the dosing. If a person were type 2 diabetic and 300 pounds, then probably they don't need 70% of their calories as carbohydrate. We would cut that down, okay? But as far as a maintenance macronutrient composition for someone who's not overweight, 15% protein, 50% fats, as God put them in the whole food, and 70% carbohydrate. Okay, so nutrition, and then he gave them water. He provided water for them, and of course the water of life is Jesus as well. Okay, they were out in the fresh air. They were getting the sunshine. They were given rest. Let's see, that's our next slide. Next slide, of course, they were reintroduced to the Sabbath. Of course, the Sabbath goes all the way back to creation, before there was any sin in the earth. So God gave us restorative rest, and this is a quote from, I don't know her, but Rachel Smith, but I love the quote. The gift of Sabbath is found when we reorient ourselves to God, we rededicate our trust in Him and reflect on His trustworthiness. And of that year in the wilderness, which turned into 40 years because of their unbelief, God over and over were getting the children of Israel to trust in His trustworthiness. So, both the Pharaoh and the children of Israel needed cognitive behavioral therapy, learning to tell yourself the truth. The Pharaoh relapsed very quickly. He was just really, God help him. But the children of Israel, they needed help too. Constantly needed to be brought back to the ultimate reality that God can literally do anything. He can part the Red Sea. You're surrounded by sea on one side, mountains on the other, and Pharaoh is coming with them with all of his chariots. Don't lose faith in God. He can deliver you from whatever you're suffering. The cognitive behavioral therapy, learning the truth about God. Okay, and then that brings us to, next slide, Bible-based CBT. CBT stands for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. This is the only therapy this is the only, I may get myself in trouble here. Maybe this is, certainly the most powerful form of psychotherapy. There might be some theories out there that have had a little benefit, but as of when I was studying this from Dr. Nedley, at that time, 20 years ago, cognitive behavioral therapy was the only psychotherapy which actually can bring about the same changes in the frontal lobe that Prozac can bring about, except when you stop Prozac or any of the other antidepressants, that positive measurable effect in the brain goes away. But exercise and CBT have a lasting effect at treating depression, okay? And you can measure the effect in the brain still active after going off any medicine or anything like that, or stopping the formal cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay, so telling yourself the truth is basically, it is psychotherapy, and we call it biblical response living. And my wife, Kate, does that at Eden Valley. So it's learning to tell yourself the truth, things which are truthful, helpful, hopeful, Bible-based, and then also boundaries are very important. So there is a very good book. She almost always, well, in her lecture, she always points everyone to some things, including boundaries. There's a very good book, and it's simply called Boundaries. There's another good book entitled Telling Yourself the Truth. Those two books are highly recommended for good mental health. There's also another one called SOS, or help, SOS for emotions. So anyway, telling yourself the truth. Boundaries, a little more word about boundaries is, we have, people can be overworked, I guess. Have you ever heard of that, overworked? In the church, overworked, 80%, 20% of the people do 80% of the work in a corporation, in a church. And you need to draw boundaries so that you preserve your energy so that you can continue serving. If you burn out, you're not going to be of any use to anyone. Or how many people have experienced toxic people in their lives? Toxic people. You need to remember Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel chapter 4. Nebuchadnezzar, God is so merciful. God worked with Nebuchadnezzar all his life, all his adult life, we know. And in the end, Nebuchadnezzar, as far as we know, he's the only pagan king to have written a chapter in the Bible. And so he became a Christian, became a God believer. At first, when he encountered God, he said, okay, the God of Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, he is a powerful God. And anyone who says something against that God, we're going to cut him in pieces and make his house a dunghill. Is that the way to make true converts? It doesn't work. Fear is not the true motivator. So he believed in God shortly, but then he came to the day he had another dream about this stump out in the field with the iron around it and dew on it. So and Daniel came in and gave him the interpretation and said, here's my advice to you, O king. Who knows, you'll be given grace by God more time. And so, acknowledge God and give the credit to God. So about a year later or whatever, it's Daniel 4 says Nebuchadnezzar was wandering out on the palace and looked over the great city of Babylon, king of the greatest empire at that time, and said, is this not great Babylon that I have built by my power, as the verse goes on? And then it happened. It says immediately he was driven out to the field, and his nails grew long. And how long was he out there? He had a 7-year New Start therapy Okay, it took more than 2 weeks for him. Sorry, that was a misquote. I tell people, this is not a 2-week cure at Eden Valley. This is a 2-week new start. You have to go home and continue. This is just the beginning. It's a pattern, not a diet, right? It's a lifestyle pattern. So this was a 7-year new start plan. We had the fresh air, the sunshine. He was eating herbs, the grass of the field, and I'm sure he got a lot of rest out there, exercise. God gave him enough water. There was dew on. Are you giving me a signal? Okay. He got dew on him, and at the end of 7 years, cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm so sorry. Cognitive behavioral therapy. So telling yourself the truth. Okay, God, I didn't build Babylon all by myself. You helped me. I realized. And he read the prophecies of Isaiah and Jeremiah and saw that he was actually God's agent. Okay, so next slide. So after 7 years of the New Start, living the New Start principles, at the same time my reason returned unto me, and for the glory of my kingdom, mine honor, the brightness returned unto me. My counselors and my lords sought unto me, and I was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added unto me. Now in contrast to legislating morality as he did, after the fiery furnace confrontation with God or encounter with God. Instead of legislating morality, now Nebuchadnezzar, what does he do? He gives his testimony. He said, now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth and his ways are judgment, and those that walk in pride he is able to abase. That was true cognitive behavioral therapy, and he got it. Okay, next slide. That was point number 5. Number 6 is a key component of success at Eden Valley, we believe, is what we've instituted as LPAC, the Lifestyle Program Aftercare component. So a great problem in lifestyle changing is whether you're talking about alcohol, tobacco, or New Start, it's, what's the fancy name? Recidivism. Coaching will be like after they go from Eden Valley. And thank you. So basically, we give them 8 weeks included in the program. The price of the program is 8 weeks of wellness coaching. And this is both group setting as the group that they've gotten to know and been with for 2 weeks. And this is a beautiful thing to witness too. Each group becomes, you see them become friends, and they become their own support group. And we form a WhatsApp or a Zoom group that they can continue meeting even after the 8 weeks. Then they can continue meeting as a group and giving by Zoom, because they're all over the world, and they can get each other motivation. Okay, so you can go back one more slide. So in the wellness coaching, they'll explore, okay, goals. What are your own goals? And the coach helps people come up with their own goals. They'll look at what their roadblocks might be at their home and how to overcome those roadblocks, etc. Okay, next slide, and then next slide. This was, I heard someone allude to this morning, is Dr. Kelly. He said, Dr. Kelly, speaking for himself as a doctor, said, I can help get them there, but it's my wife who, as the cook, who helps keep them there. Okay. So it's true, when people call up Eden Valley, this wouldn't be so true for a home-based situation. Again, we're encouraging, start small if you need to. But for a medium to larger sized operation, they're calling you up and they're going to be paying, significant amount of money, and they're reassured, or they're definitely more interested in coming if the intake person says, "Oh yes, we have a doctor." Yeah, so having a doctor definitely will increase your draw. And of course, as a facility needing, trying to see 12 people, if you only have 2 or 3 or 4 people, as it was the case before I came, there was no doctor for a year and a half, or the doctors were coming and going, or not even there for 3 years. And, you can't keep your doors open with 2 or 3 people, not if you have a whole campus. So if you can't keep your doors open, then you can't fulfill your mission of preaching God, having your Bible studies with people and drawing people to God. So having a physician does help. It helps people come. And of course, we can have the de-prescribing under the control of a doctor, which has been discussed. Okay, number 8, we've got the medical missionary evangelist training program, which the video talked about, and Shaniel and other people have talked about. So, and how this helps us is it helps provide staff, okay? So it was such a pleasure to have Dr. Lloyd and his wife Lisa, an RN, come through, a doctor and a nurse. They came through our 6-month training, and now they feel equipped with they feel ready, called with God's equipping to go out and start something here, and God will help them. So we see Lisa and Lloyd over there. Lisa on the far left. Okay, so anyway, that provides, we get to know a person for 6 months and see if they're, have a right attitude and have a relationship with God and can be with the program as far as delivering, okay? So the school definitely helps us keep the kitchen staffed, or our therapists to give fever baths for people who come for cancer. And then the next point, we come to the farm. The farm helps provide pesticide-free produce. And of course, Ellen White talks a lot about in the sanitarium of getting people outside actually working in the farm. So we are experimenting with trying to do that. It can be a little challenge with cancer, and they're weak. Anyway, we're kind of, that's a work in progress, but we are following the counsel and trying to get our guests out in the farm for a little bit of time. We have several slides just to show you our farm, and that's our youngest member, and that's Shaniel's son, Daniel. And okay, and point number, some tomatoes. Okay. Not exactly, not hydroponic, but it's in a greenhouse. And okay, so again, the wider variety of vegetables you have, try to eat the rainbow, Eat your breadfruit, the white and the yellow, the mango for the orange, your ground vegetables for the greens, your callaloo, the sweet potatoes, yams are excellent, carrots. Just eat the whole rainbow, okay. There we've got some beets. Beets are extremely valuable. Okay, and then number 10, our final point is we focus on God's character. And Jesus replied, you know, I knew of one, at least one person who said, you know, I can't pray to God like you. Actually, this was the author, Ty Gibson, who experienced this. I can't pray to God, the Father. Maybe I could learn to pray to Jesus, but that's not a dichotomy. Jesus taught us, and this is why Jesus came. Jesus said, if you've seen me, you have seen the Father. God, we're not a split personality. God the Father and God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, they're all on our side. It's not one begging the other to be merciful to us, the sinners. No, 2 Corinthians 5:19 says, God was in Christ on the cross, reconciling the world to us, not counting, not imputing their sins against them. And he's given us this message of reconciliation. We are ambassadors to the world. God has reconciled himself to you already. Now just accept that. Be reconciled to him. You can go to the worst person in your estimation and say, God has reconciled himself to you. I don't want anything to do with God. No, but he wants everything to do with you. Well, I hate God. Well, he loves you. Just keep on coming back, and you'll soften that brother, that sister. Okay, next slide. And this is life eternal, that they may know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent. So uplift God. Uplift the God. We have about 70% Adventists come, 30% non-Adventists. And nearly everyone, including the Adventists, say, you know, I've come closer to God as a result of being here. I had one person come to my wife day number 1 after her lecture and said, I don't want any of that God stuff. Don't give me any of that God stuff to me in the cognitive behavioral therapy. And my wife said, it's okay, honey. It's like, we're like Burger King. You can have it your way. And you do have Burger King here, I think, but it's part of our downfall, and now it's part of your downfall. But not that Burger King is no worse than any of the others, you know. But at least you can get a plant-based burger at Burger King. It's not whole food, but it's plant-based, the Impossible Burger. So anyway, she said, it's okay. We don't have to talk about God at all. You know, that lady came into her room that very afternoon and says, now what about this about God? What do you believe? And, you know, she was asking about God. And at the end of 2 weeks, this dear lady said, it is so nice that you all can bring people here and teach them all what you Seventh-Day Adventists believe about God. And I mean, complete transformation. So that's what it's all about, seeing lives transformed by God's principles of education and healing. Okay, so what is God's character? So Moses begged God to show himself to him. God said, well, you can't see my face or you'll die, but you can pass by and I'll cover you with my hand. Exodus 34:6, and the Lord passed before him and proclaimed, the Lord God, merciful and gracious, long-suffering, and abundant in goodness and truth, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin. And that will here's the truth, a little cognitive behavioral therapy already, and that will by no means clear, and then the guilty is added. God's goodness and gracious is not going to clear you if you don't accept him. We don't believe in universalism. Oh, no. Another way Jesus put it is in John 6, I am the bread of heaven. The bread of heaven is come down to the world. And if a person eats thereof, he shall live forever. We have to eat of the word. We have to accept. So God's grace and mercy and long-suffering will not clear the guilty. But who are the guilty? 1 John 1:9, if we, and you can say it with me, if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. So he's not only faithful, but he's just. Who would accuse God of not being just and taking us to heaven? Satan, the accuser of the brethren. So God is saying, if you don't even confess your sins, what in the world am I going to tell Satan? But if you confess your sins, I am faithful and I'm justified to forgive you. Okay, next slide. Jonah. We often don't focus on this verse in Jonah chapter 4. I'm assuming like 99.9% of you know the story of Jonah. Chapter 4, verse 2, after Nineveh was saved, repented, and were not consumed, therefore. And Jonah prayed unto the Lord and said, I pray thee, O Lord, was not this my saying when I was yet in my country? It is therefore, that is exactly why I fled before thee unto Tarshish, for I knew thou art a gracious God and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and repentest thee of the evil. Jonah, the reluctant prophet, and God saved the whole city. There was some recidivism. The city was destroyed some decades later, but those people were given a reprieve. God is merciful and gracious, and that is who we are uplifting at Eden Valley. So a summary of the core components. We use the word. Number 2, guests say we genuinely love prayer. Number 4, we use God's 8 natural remedies, true remedies. We use a Bible-based CBT. We have the LPAC program. We don't just let them go home and flounder on their own. We give them 8 weeks of support. We have a physician present, and we're constantly training new staff. We have the farm to support us, and we uplift God's character. Thank you for your attention. After lunch, you've been a wonderful audience.
Any questions for Dr. Keith and Shaniel? Okay, you gotta come closer. Come on down.
Yeah, come on down, Shaniel.
You spark me. And I say that because I am a passionate advocate for holistic lifestyle. And just seeing the view of Eden Valley, of course I've heard a little, but having seen you and the presentation of what you do there, but the question I want to ask is, suppose I want to become a part of that, suppose I want to be trained to come back to do an effective job, because I believe that the main purpose of you being here is not just to show off Eden Valley, but it's to make us more knowledgeable so we can make greater impact. How do I become trained so I can do such a wonderful work? All of us who are here.
Well, I know at least 3 places in the United States, Wildwood, Uchee Pines, and Eden Valley, who have education programs. Weimar, of course, has formal education, a year. You can get a nursing degree at Weimar, etc. But I only know of Eden Valley. It's a 6-month course that starts in June and finishes before America's Thanksgiving. End of November, yes, thank you. So end of November, so June through November. And so that's the best way, and you get training in prophecy and sharing the Bible, and of course I teach anatomy and physiology, a very short course, and then another short course in disease and treatment. And then also in the afternoon, if you come as a full student, you will rotate, you'll get to practice giving a fever bath to someone who is coming for cancer. You'll get to go to the store, you'll get to work with our herbalist, you'll get to work on the farm.
Yeah, so I think your question is vital there, as Doc mentioned, the various ways that what our program consists of. And you're right, this is not about telling what Eden Valley is doing, that's what we're asked to do. But Dr. Lloyd, for example, that's been practicing medicine for years, and he realized the importance of serving and learning in the setting that he wants to return to Jamaica to try to carry out this program. He was there for 6 months and spent the time with Dr. Keith. He spent time with myself, and the rest of the team went through the entire training. So the training is there. Now, sometimes we have several students, like this year we've had those who applied to come there, but as you know, it's not very easy. Some people don't get a visa to come there. So that's why we have to develop the work here in Jamaica.
Amen.
Okay, and that's one of the reasons years ago, you heard me in the beginning, I was passionate, as you just said. God opened the way that I was able to go there, but since then I have been coming back to this country and always coming back and looking for ways that we can continue to develop the work here. So yes, we have what it takes, and I have some things I can share with you later. We don't have to go through all of that now. But one of the key things for us to be considering today, we're talking about from knowledge to action, is how can we develop this here in Jamaica? Yes. Make it happen here in Jamaica. That's what this is about. And by God's grace, this is going to happen. This is happening. It started just this morning.
Amen.
Yes, sister. And we need to continue to move forward. Let's look at some other questions on other points, but we can talk off the air and more things. Any other questions before we close? Yes.
Well, I was thinking the same way as as that lady, that this event is really to promote a sister place like Eden Valley. Is that the goal?
That is correct. Yeah, I can't hear you properly.
So, okay, maybe. I was thinking on certain concepts the lady before me presented, that the goal of this event is really just to present information in regards to developing a sister institution like Eden Valley in Jamaica. One of the things we have here is certain seasons, and one of the seasons is the dry season and the rainy season. So I just wondered how much water would be needed to develop something, and how much. I'm serious.
Well, we don't
okay,
need
one of our major problems that I see that would be the greatest thing is not land. Okay, it's not individuals. There are over 700 churches in Jamaica, and most of them are overflowing on a Sabbath morning. But water, okay? How much water is, or how do you deal with the water problem for such a institution.
Yeah, all right. So the water is not a problem, beloved.
The water is not a problem?
No, man, never a problem.
All right. Well,
no, mommy, it's not a problem.
Okay, God gave the people with Moses more than enough water. But I'm telling you the truth, that is what I see as something that needs to be considered. But I really think it's a very good idea, something that is overdue.
Right.
Overdue. There are just too many Adventists that are dying.
Yes.
Around the clock. You know, I don't know if the Lord is taking us all. He's saying home, but that's what it seems to me. Especially with cancer. Okay.
Yes.
And one of the things is that I saw somewhere where research is part of the presentation or something of that nature or something similar to that. But cancer is one of the leading causes of death in this country. And a lot of people do not know how to cook and how to cook non-flesh food.
All right, so I think as we continue to go through the presentations, we are going to be on your program. I think after this presentation, Dr. Tony is going to be talking about the development of a wellness center and school right here in Jamaica. We're here to partner. We're here to partner and by God's grace to see the fruition of this, to make this happen. Because a whole heap of talk we've been going on with for years, right? Whole heap of talk. But we have to move from knowledge to action. And by God's grace, we're here to support, to help, to develop this process. Sister, so we're going to talk about that, and we're going to go through it. So you have to continue with us, okay? As we continue to talk about these things. All right.
All right, thank you so much. Give a big round of applause to Dr. Keith and Shaniel. And we're getting ready for the other presenter, but Dr. Kemar Douglas. And let me introduce the person who will introduce Dr. Francis, because you know Dr. Douglas, right? Do you know him? Yes. All right. Something you don't know. I came to NCU, then West Indies College, in 1997. Kemar Douglas came to NCU in 1997. There is a hall over there across the road called Cedar Hall. Kemar Douglas and I were roommates. And I don't think we're related. But here's what now. Here's what. Kemar Douglas, he was doing religion or theology, and I started off in bioscience, and then I switched to medtech. And after that, I went to med school. He finished. He was a pastor preaching down the place, baptizing people. He went back to med school. He's finished. And I went back to Andrews University and started my master's in pastoral ministry. But I'm not yet finished. So he's much better than me. So God is, I don't know how he does it. And then recently we reconnected and we're working together now. So Kemar Douglas, my brother from, I'm not a father with the same, I don't think we have the same fathers, but come and introduce Dr. Francis for us.
There is also one thing that Lloyd is missing from the introduction, because how his voice sounds today is not how he sings. So we used to vie instrumental choir, we're both the bass and a baritone, so he's supposed to have a deeper voice. There's an a cappella group that was there also, and all that thing used to do at NCU. So now you hear his voice sound a bit higher than normal. That's not how he was when he was at NCU. Yes, he had a nice baritone. I'm bass, he was bass. We both sang tenor, baritone, and bass. We both sang like that, and we were on the different. Oh, no, I didn't sing it to Lloyd. But it comes down to soloing and stuff like that, you need to sing it to him. All right, so our next presenter is someone that I have tremendous amount of respect for. Once you meet with him, once you know him, once you talk to him, you realize the level of knowledge that he has is very erudite, well studied. He loves his church. He loves his church. And he actually served our Jamaica Union Conference as one of the health directors back then. West Indies Union, West Indies Union. Thank you, Pastor Dudley. West Indies Union. He's actually somebody who has been very involved in community health. He believes in serving the people and pioneered a lot of things that we now benefit from in the medical field. And he went to study. Surprisingly, he went to Loma Linda to study, and a part of his studies there was to meet Dr. Kelly. And they had a wonderful relationship at that time also. So he's now back with us here, and he serves NCU as the person in charge of research. And he's also the campus physician. He's still a practicing medical doctor. There is something I have to tell you about Dr. Frankson, Dr. Tony. He talks very long. The wealth of knowledge that he has, the wealth of knowledge, man. So sometimes you will see him, he keeps you entertained because he shares so much. And therefore, there's a vision that we have had for NCU that he's trying to bring together and bring forward, and is to make NCU also a premier medical institution. In fact, if it was up to him, it would have been done already, because we have everything here to do it. But there's just some technicalities that he's trying to work through and get it done. And a part of that also is to establish NCU as a lifestyle center. And therefore, we're very, very happy to have him. Very well read, very well researched, and the man leading the charge here on campus. So welcome, Dr. Frankson, as we indeed hear the proposal going forward.
This thing is not properly designed. It was not properly designed. When we do research and we have all the participants having the same experience, we know we have found the right thing. I don't want you to hear that part. I don't want you to hear that part. I'm criticizing the design of NCU. Yeah. Okay. You're going to have to assist me, please, as usual. And I have my own laptop as a backup, but it's connected to yours. I'm going to disappoint you today. I'm going to be short. But I do like to cover things comprehensively, and I'm in the right company because all the speakers have been covering it comprehensively. I will be kind to you today. Next slide, please. All right, you want me to move on my own thing? And that is the one, right? All right. I pressed it. Yeah, I know. I've been pressing them. Okay. You have had so much of a good Bible study today. We'll have a baptism tonight. I'm going to start with taking the bull by the horn. And I'm going to use Ellen G. White's writings there from something she wrote in Review and Herald in May 29 in 1888. And it's a very important statement. It says, it is the desire and plan of Satan to bring in among us those who will go to great extremes. People who are narrow-minded, who are critical and sharp, and very tenacious in holding their own conceptions of what the truth means. They will be exacting and will seek to endorse rigorous duties and go to great lengths in matters of minor importance, while they neglect the weightier matters of the law, judgment, that's the ethical aspect of it, and mercy, that's the love aspect of it, and love for God, love of God. Through the work of a few of this class of persons, the whole body of Sabbath keepers will be designated as bigoted, pharisaical, and fanatical. The work of the truth, because of these workers, will be thought to be unworthy of notice. Providentially, God has set up the health work. And okay. Little louder. Providentially, how is that? Yes, God has done the work. Sunday, April 15, the beautiful buildings and grounds of Loma Linda Sanitarium were solemnly dedicated to the service of God. All were to cooperate with God in combating diseases not only through the use of natural remedial agents He has placed within our reach, but also by encouraging their patients to lay hold on divine strength through obedience to the commandments of God. That's the promises and the admonitions of God. More important than the lovely location is the close proximity to the densely populated district and the opportunity this afforded to communicate to many, many people a knowledge of the third angel's message for us to enlighten the world. The great crisis is just before us. Now is the time for us to sound the warnings and message by the agencies that God has given us for this purpose. Let us remember that one most important agency is our medical missionary work. Take note of this. The rest of the Cook medical ministry, well worth the investment if you haven't read it. When I got the job at 28 years old to be the director for or they didn't call them directors those days, they called them the secretary for the Health and Temperance Ministries for West Indies Union, I was given all, a month later I handed them back to him and said, I've read all of them, I'm ready for the job. And I did. And they really clarified a lot for me, coming fresh as a young man out of medical school with Western medical philosophy and so forth. Well, one of those books that I really will emphasize today is this one, Medical Ministry. Never are we to lose sight of the great object for which our sanitariums are established, the advancement of God's closing work in this earth. Forget that go, but remember the go from the General Conference. God cannot endorse any institution unless it teaches the living principles of His laws and brings its own actions into strict conformity to these principles. You saw that well illustrated in the last presentation. The proper development of the work calls for prayerful thought and planning, that the institutions which the Lord has given instructions that the Lord has given concerning this work there may be fulfilled. This being true for Loma Linda University, it is equally true for Northern Caribbean University, where already persons are being prepared for many lines of work as they enter in at the straight gate that lovely Jesus admonishes all to steadfastly follow with Him to victory evermore. Quoting from Matthew. All parts of the Lord's vineyards are to be worked lovingly and economically by sanctified, dignified, kind, discerning, experienced workers devoted to God. She said some other qualifications too, but buy the book and read it to get those others. Okay? At Northern Caribbean University, we have quite a few assets that are already here in place. Number one, the doors of opportunity for medical ministry are still open at NCU and around this country and the region and our sister countries as well. They won't stay open for long, though, if Jesus is to put in his appearance soon, as I suspect he will do. But do not take those things for granted because they exist now. You have seen how quickly in some countries not too far from here, things can get pretty chaotic because of, well, the devil working in high places. And he works right in high places here too. So let's not fool ourselves. Huh? Can you agree with me on this next point? That we have salubrious environs, including not just the hills, etc. I didn't even bother to put any pictures in my presentation because the rest of my PowerPoint is as you step out the door. I didn't want Eden Valley to feel bad. So they're going to feel bad anyway because you're getting it in video, real life immersion. But that's okay. It's all in righteousness and love. And they're coming here and they're collaborating with us. Can we say amen for that? Amen. Okay. But we do have these wonderful environs. We also have a legacy that has left us with some good things. We used to have a bakery here. The best bread, when I ate it, I lost weight in the right places and gained weight in the right places. And we have a legacy of a farm here and all of that, right? We have some skeletons of it now. The food industry has failed. But there are other alternatives. We have the cafeteria still hanging on and still giving me great meals. You're benefiting from some of that. I hope you enjoy it. And there are plans to even refurbish our cafeterias. Have you been to the one at Andrews Memorial Hospital? When I go there, I love it. Just the tiles alone, I want to dance. But, I know that would cause a big board meeting. But it's a wonderful improvement. And it's coming here too. We have a gymnatorium here which serves a multi-purpose function. We will be ending up there in a few days. And you will see the wonderfulness of when things actually actively go on there, those of you who are visitors. But those of you who know that and have experienced it, I know you agree with me. We have grounds that are just natural. They're naturally built on hills and valleys so that you're not just walking, you are also strengthening your muscles as you climb up those hills, and as you restrain yourselves from running down the steep slopes, you're getting isotonic as well as isometric exercise. And you didn't even have to ask to exercise. You just set out to walk and you got exercise. It's as natural as that. It's dangerous though, because crossing the road right ahead there is actually a death-defying act because of the kind of drivings we have in our country. But there are alternatives, etc., as things move forward. And we have beautiful buildings. One of the things that happened with COVID is that it left a lot of our strategy shifted now to doing so much online that we have classrooms that are open for us to do lifestyle. You notice I didn't say practically empty. I said open for us to do lifestyle classes in them and exercises, etc. No, they were waiting for us. And it's right here. 8,000 Jamaican a night, divide that by 156 and you get it in US. You might even so love it that you do like what I did. I rent it, and they gave me a gorgeous rate. Still wicked. They still have to pray for forgiveness. But I forgive them every month and give them the $700 US every month. And I feel good about it because they give me $2,000 US. I'm talking in US dollars so that the foreigners can understand. And I returned 700 of that in rent. And then I returned so many hundreds in food. And I returned the tithes and offering, etc. So really, my wife and I decided to do that. And we get Social Security because we are both American citizens. So anything that we fall short of, we just bring in some foreign exchange as well, doctor. So we're really a blessing to this country. But the point is that it's a sacrifice that we love making. And that if more of us don't do, we will not see the work actually go forward. It is not a call for us to equate ourselves with the world's standards, but to do as Jesus did and move it sacrificially. We have no abiding place here. Oh, I have been changing it for you. Sorry. Sorry, I've been depriving you visually. There we go. We have a stable administration with great interest in health promotion and protection. I won't say anything more about that because time will not allow me, but I do appreciate the fact that our administration is properly run by good standards that the Lord has given to run his work. And we are an example in that in many ways. Yes, Dr. Sonia, the salary is too small, but we press on. Oh, goodness. Yes. We have a health and wellness service here that runs across the campus. It's under the division of the university that is called Student Affairs. And the beautiful thing of working there is that most of what we do is actually lifestyle medicine related. The fortunate thing that we have is that our campus is populated by young people who really don't have any diseases yet that are easily diagnosed. And they do have their accidents. They do have the playfulness in the dorm that sometimes accidentally results in somebody getting injured, but that's rare, right? And some of those injuries have been serious. But we have an excellent supportive service that gets them help that they need right locally and also by the very wonderful link that we have with the government regional hospital and other health services around, etc. But our health and wellness service puts on health awareness periods, weeks, months, weeks and days and so forth, different events at different times of the year. And we have a good responsiveness of our students and many of our faculty and our workers in general gated here. And we also have several gospel and health related diploma and degree professionals offering programs here that you can get those kinds of qualifications with, plus high interest of students and their teachers in those very things. Some of my colleagues are here, and it's been a joy to work with them. It's been a growing experience. We've had our bumps, we have had our joys, and the greatest thing is to see those students mature and finally to see them getting graduated. And the process is a process of molding the minds of young people. And we have master teachers in our nursing school, in our medical technology school, in our nutrition school, in our dental hygiene school. And we're hoping to add more schools as we go along in the health area. When you add up all the schools that we have here and the enrollment, we actually are health interest, people in health interest are actually a lion's share of the presence, the enrollment, and even the staffing here at Northern Caribbean University. And when you look at what is being produced, they are meeting the standards of the government's requirement for certifications, etc. And we are supplying the needs for our local situation. And in a handsome way, we are supplying places like North America with nurses in particular. That one, I think, I'm a little bit jealous of. Yeah, centrally located to impact nationwide. We are about equally distanced north to south to east to west, and we are seeing that as a mission field. We have provisions, as I said earlier on, through the hotel that we have here for live-in services, live-in where persons can do correspondence programs in wellness and health, and come in maybe a week or two for a practical living component right here and be charged. We actually got that idea from Uchee Pines as one of the programs that they do. We have that here, and we have the facilities not only to house them, but also to do the lecturing. But equally importantly, to let them be enjoying and benefiting from what is already in place, a walkway that has been here for quite a while, for a walking course around the campus. A good workout it is too. So, that makes me say that lifestyle medicine is already here at NCU, but it was a well-kept secret. And now its secret needs to be unclothed so that we can do cognitive behavioral therapy and truly face it with reality and the truth, and now just recognize it and do it even more properly and effectively. Because that kind of awareness now is something that the angels of the Lord, the Holy Spirit, can use, because he says that once he sees us ready, he will advance us. Isn't that what he says in Exodus? He says he has all this land for the children of Israel, but he's not going to give it to them all at once. He's going to give it to them gradually as they show themselves ready. Frankson's paraphrasing of that particular verse. But still gospel truth. We have that, and we have online programs that we are working on for micro-credentialing on faith-based community health involvement, where people will also be able in the future, and this is where we'll have to link up with some of our other folks who have come as visitors and who are some of our local folks who are here, to do them, not to get a degree, but this is for the average person in the community who is a Christian, to come and learn how to run the simple thing of a faith-based community health involvement-based activity or oriented activity. We owe that to our communities, and especially the congregants of our over 700 churches, because of two reasons. One, this is one of the things that will help to lay the foundation, equip them, and will help to give them a readiness to understand what lifestyle medicine is about, and not just lifestyle medicine, but the total rational medicine that the Adventist Church pushes forward. And the second reason is that, really, if NCU is not helping to improve us as average persons in our churches, why should we have any interest in NCU? It has not made a connection with us. Can you imagine the General Conference telling us to read our Bibles every day and not sending us also Sabbath school lessons? The biggest school in the world is on Saturday mornings. The most united school in the world. It's a wonder, a spiritual wonder of the world. On Saturday mornings around the world, millions of people are studying the same things, saying basically the same thing, and if you go to each congregation, you also will learn something fresh that you didn't get at the last congregation. Such is the miracle and the wonder of it. And when General Conference says General Conference session, whether we have the money or not, some of us find it and go there, because what we're in love with what the General Conference has done to meet a need for us. We should do that at Northern Caribbean University. And it will help in that way. Our basic means of keeping afloat here is by our enrollment. This year, from the indications of the last few days, the buzzing activities, it looks like our enrollment might be up. I haven't seen the figures, so I have no official announcement. But I can promise you that the president is the happiest he's been in the last 2 years that I have seen here. The associate provost, the vice president for student affairs, etc. And I am happy. I was telling one of the security guards a while ago, he said, man, a lot of, I said, yes, your paycheck is sure this month. Let me tell you, we need to face reality. Dr. Hussein, you look so handsome. Please have a seat. And I want equal treatment with all the speakers. Have a seat. And I will soon be finished, though. Don't worry. I did promise you that I will be brief. But the beauty of that is exactly that we have that. We have ready access to existing health facilities sponsored by the Seventh-Day Adventist Church here in Jamaica. If somebody is sick and wants to get to Andrews Memorial Hospital, as one pastor was, one of the top dignitaries in one of our conferences, came and he was on aspirin, and the doctor should have backed him off to a little bit less. And as he parked to go to church, his nose started to pour blood. Sister Janelle, you remember that? And after we did our thing, he said, I want to go to my doctor at Andrews. That was the sweetest thing to me. I said, I'm going to show this big shot executive that we are all connected. So from our humble little first aid station at the gymnatorium, we shuttled him. It was a Saturday and our health service was closed. Maybe that's another area of improvement that we need to work on. But I went with him, and we didn't have enough equipment, but I knew what to do as a former ear, nose, and throat surgical resident. And I did the gloves cutting and stuffing the nose and packing in gauze, etc., and tamponaded it. And he looked like a stuffed turkey as he drove his way with me beside him, accompanying him to Andrews Memorial Hospital. Let me tell you something. He was so impressed that he could get that kind of service within this denomination that he slaves for, that he is still talking about it today. And I know that if a vote ever comes for something, against or for NCU, I know where his vote will be. We blessed him, and Andrews blessed him. And we need to strengthen that tie between Andrews and, in fact, we need to do a whole health network properly. That includes the ones that our conferences sponsor, like the H.S. Walters Center as well. Because none of our centers really can survive well unless they are talking to each other and helping out, because each have their strengths and their weaknesses. So, that's that. Plus, our local churches need to see that modeled so that that spirit can be caught, and they too will have a place in a wider network that will develop as we go along. Now, we have the joy of knowing that our Northern Caribbean University is sponsored not only by the Jamaica Union, but also by the Atlantic Caribbean Union. The hospital doesn't have that privilege. It's only sponsored by the Jamaica Union. But NCU has the reach and the audience of both unions, Cayman Islands, Turks and Caicos, Bahamas, and we have the entire Jamaica. Before there were one, there were the West Indies Union. Now there are two, because the work has grown. And they are well sensitized to lifestyle medicine. You saw that in the introductory talk this morning as the treasurer for the union stood in for the president, etc., etc. And the vice president for the Northern Caribbean University is the president of the Atlantic Caribbean Union. Another union that is highly sensitized to health and wellness, and indeed that is ready for something like this. So, we're ready for lifestyle medicine. We have been doing it. We have been playing around the edges of the pond. We have even stepped in a little bit sometimes. And it's time now to go to the Olympics. The Jamaica, our union, will soon have a formal health council supporting the health ministry's directors. With this key link, you're going to see a more efficient exchange of communication and efficiency in logistics, etc., and planning, and in the spirit being able to move in wonderful modern ways. This is the man who is the executive secretary for that council as director. All right. And he knows how to give good company. So people like that man over there, the education director, who also has a serious program of bringing health into the schools that we run. And I wish we had time for him, but we have to leave him for next year's summit, when he can tell us with even statistics. But he knows my attitude towards what he's doing is 1,000% or more support. And this is what we need. We need to break down the silos. When you're talking education, do you know how much our little primary school children know about health and about biology? I thought the modern primary school children were doing CXC. The details they know about the cell and living and so forth and so on. And these are all things of knowledge increasing, etc., etc. But with such a council, we are going to be having not just education and health, but we are also going to be having personal ministries and ADRA, and we're going to be having the conference directors, etc., sitting around the table, and AY meeting twice a year maybe, because it's a high-level meeting, and planning so that whatever we say for health doesn't just stay in health, it goes to AY, it goes to personal ministries, it goes filter. Every department working as if it is one Jesus that is the head of this church. So, that's where we are with our assets. We have begun to collaborate with University of Southern Caribbean, our sister Adventist university in Trinidad, and the Maracas Valley there in Trinidad, in the country of Trinidad and Tobago, on a values and health study like the Adventist Health Study. We are putting together the team, and we are going to be looking for serious funding to replicate something in our region that was done, as Dr. Kelly and so forth talked about, with California's various studies, Adventist mortality study, and so forth, and the valiogenesis study. Dr. Henry, you would know about that one, came from La Sierra, and so on and so forth. So, folks, we are not just looking locally. We are going in the entire region of this whole area, that this diaspora of primarily African based, but also mixed healthily with other bases, find collaboration, it goes there. That's wonderful when folks can come from places like New York, etc., where they talk in trillions of dollars and it's not Jamaican dollars, and can come and bless us with things like this. And if any of you know how to get that happening more often, please encourage it. I told you about the micro-credentialing course already, and we are looking at also linking up with Andrews Memorial Hospital, etc. So I told you about those things, and I think I have proven to you that NCU is ready for a lifestyle medicine and total rational medicine thing along in an environment of a network that is practicing rational medicine. And maybe not just the lifestyle medicine, but lifestyle health care, in which the medicine is a part. But there will be the psychology, there will be the gospel evangelism, there will be etc., etc. Have I made my case? Are you on board? Do you have any questions?
I hardly have questions. I'm just elated, having sat and listened and knowing that this is something I've always envisioned. And I heard it at the graduation online the other day, but to hearing it in live and living colors made me more elated. No, when I look into this, I am seeing a cohesiveness of the work that the servant of the Lord has promoted ever since. Our educational institutions are not for academic readiness, but holistic development. And this is where we are getting at. But one of the things I'd love to be incorporated in this is that our publishing work become established as the servant of the Lord has said, whereby I heard you talk about Pastor Henry as the education director. Here we see the school also becoming inclusive, whereby the books that we as colporteurs ensure that gets in the hand of individuals, whether of the church or not of the church, and some of our widest customers are even outside of the church. Now our schools can have these books into their hands where they are the first, what would I call it? The first persons who will be ready to say, yes, we are not just a church that provide good literature, but our school use them and our students are performing at the peak like anybody else in the government institution. So I really want to see this move off, and I know with much prayer it will be possible, where the publishing, health, and everything will encompass this holistic development of our church and our people.
Already there is no distinction and difference between the prayer, literature evangelism, and health work at the union level. when our health director sits as the chair, as the executive secretary for the council, prayer ministry will be the executives, and literature, because he's the man for all three of those things. So that is designed by God. God saw that long ago and set that up, and he gave you the dream so that when you voice it, he feels good that what he's doing, set by God, has been really appointed and well designed. We, as health workers who work along with him voluntarily, we would love more of us to be employed too, so that he could give us some salaries too, but voluntarily mostly. But we actually are delighted that such a person is our health ministry's director, and is not shy to bleed literature evangelism into it and season it well in Jamaican style seasoning with prayer. So you have already the answer to that one. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Doc, for that very riveting presentation. And suffice to say, the implications of it are really enormous. Because as you mentioned, the students to be trained as well, it means that the influence of such an institution would be felt not just nationally, but regionally. And as you said, I think you've made a convincing case that this is not just something that we need to the world. That's right, that's right. This is not just something that we can do, it's something that we need to do, and the preparation is there already. My question is, what are some of the hindrances that we might have to navigate around?
Yes.
Oh, may I take your question? Oh, sorry.
Yes, the hindrance.
Right. What are some of the hindrances that we might need to navigate around to make this a reality?
There's always been only one hindrance, and that is the history of the Christian church, which is failure to see early enough that we need to be submitting to God. All that I have just presented to you will never happen unless God makes it happen. When God sees us especially submitting to him, and this was covered very well in this quarter Sabbath school lesson earlier on, right? I remember 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was actually one of the statements there in the teacher's edition at the life application section, which says, it's not key performance indices that we're looking for. It's not finances, etc., etc. It's not success. That one shocked me. It's not success that we should be working on. It is submission to God. And when he comes in, you better put in the key performance indices and the other wonderful things to monitor and report on the success that he brings. But Israel always got into trouble when they did not submit to God. And the job was always too big for them. And when they submitted to God, it got done successfully anyway. When they did not get submitted to God, and that still remains our cancer. Our cancer is our selfishness and arrogance. Wow. And we need to know how to do that. Dr. Kelly.
Well, okay, all right. Dr. Kelly, you have the last question.
That is our barrier. That is our barrier. But since the Sabbath school lesson is covering it so nicely, I didn't mention it in the presentation.
I just want to agree with what you're saying, and I want to point out, how do we know when the Jewish nation was submissive?
When they were obedient.
Yeah, exactly.
When they were obedient. That's in the Sabbath school lesson too, by
yes,
the way.
I'm
a good Sabbath school lesson
I think I actually
student.
had the privilege of being on the panel that Sabbath. But at any rate, the point I want to make is the thing that I believe that gives us the power to do God's will is the submission that leads to the determined obedience. And this is what you're talking about is obedience.
Yeah, exactly.
We have been commissioned to do this work.
Exactly.
Let's take hold.
Yes. And stop seeing yourself as a servant. You are God's daughters and sons. You're too humble, false humble. You're princes and princesses. You're royal priests. So behave like that, please. And not like the ones in Buckingham Palace. That's the wrong model, where you can't even go to touch them. Be the kind that Jesus was, where the woman just loved to touch him, and the other persons, etc. That's real royalty, okay? But we have it upside down. But all right, that's the preacher in me, but I'm not going back to theology school. I'll do Sabbath school.
All right, thank you. Big round of applause for Dr. Frankson. All right, so here's what. We started a little bit late this morning, and we're not going to go too far over the projected time, which was 4:25. But we have Dr. John Kelly here, and he has a final presentation. He will be introduced by Sister Shand. Did I get it right? Before she comes, we have to take a break because you have been sitting for far too long. So please stand. Trust me, there's something good in store if you listen to me. You know I always have something in store. Please stand. If you're not standing, you won't be in this. So, Elder Shaniel has a gift for you. And I want him to walk around and hand the gift out right now as a part of our break. So while we're standing, Elder Shaniel, you have 5 minutes. You and Dr. Keith, the Eden Valley guys, they brought some gifts. So one take one side, one take the other side. And from Eden Valley, we want you to remember them. They have some gifts. Keep standing. If you want what they have, they're coming around right now. I'm giving them 3 minutes. And then we're going to have Sister Shand. And then we're going to have John Kelly. And the topic, you can't leave. The final topic for today is entitled Building Healthy Churches, Integrating Lifestyle Medicine to Shift Community Health Norms. All right? So keep standing, keep stretching while, keep moving. I've got the Spirit in my feet and it's keeping me alive. I've got the Spirit in my hands. And, just keep moving, keep moving. Let me see the hands of all the healthcare practitioners. You're a healthcare provider. Raise your hand. I want to get a sense of the room. Yeah, keep moving while I raise your hand. All right, let me see the hands of all those who are representing just your church. Just came here. All right, let me see the hands of those who are from overseas. Anyone from overseas? Just a few of us. All right. So, did you get the gift as yet? Getting your gift? Please don't leave. All right? Now, I want you to do one more thing. I want you to take your phone out. Take your phone out. Take your phone out. Take your cell phone out. You should have received the gift by now. Take your cell phone out. Listen to me. Only a few people. I know everybody has a phone. All right. Here's what you're going to do right now. This is a part of social connection. It's a pillar of lifestyle medicine. We looked really good today, but we can look much better tomorrow. We want to fill this room tomorrow. We'll be back here early. Not Jamaica time. Early time. I want you to text someone and let them know about this program and invite them to be with you here tomorrow. Do that right now. Right now as Dr. John Kelly comes down. Right now. The room looked good today, but we had more people on this side than on this side. I want to balance things off. I don't see you texting. I'm very, there's something you want to get to know about me. I'm a very serious person. So, text. Text a friend. Everyone got a pen? And also a little, what was that?
Let me explain. Yeah. So this is a triple function thing for those who have received it. And if you have not, we're going to also get that to you. Of course, it's a keyring, it's obvious. It's a bottle opener, you may have noticed that too, but it's also a phone holder. So I want to show you, you can just set it on your table, very simple. If you have a phone, I can show you. Oh yeah, okay. And so with the phone, horizontally, you can just sit it in it and you can watch your video.
I'm gonna ask for Sister Miller, Nurse Miller.
Where are the nursing students? We're planting seeds here. They should have been here. They're registering, they can't come. All right. Let them know that whoever got registered today, they can come tomorrow. Not back at school yet? Not this week? I thought they were here this week. Oh, next week. Okay. Put something out online for students who have nothing tomorrow. It's Friday. They're free to come here. I want them to come. We're planting seeds with the young people. They should be here tomorrow. We're going to fill this room tomorrow. All right. Enough of me. You may be seated. Come on, sister. You know what? I want you to watch your steps. I don't want any more. Yes. Come on down. Come on down.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to say it again, and I'll tell you why I'm saying it again. I must get everybody's attention. Good afternoon, everyone. Good. And why do I need your attention? This next session coming up is very important. It is entitled Building Healthy Churches, Integrating Lifestyle Medicine to Shift Community Health Norms. Now, all the members that, I don't know your church, it might be a big church, it might be a small church, but all of them, they are not here. You are representing your church. So it means that you have got to stay awake because you are going back to your church to start this conversation, right? Am I right? Yes, so you can't afford to miss what is going to be said by Dr. John Kelly. And it's easy for me to introduce him because you heard him 2 times since morning. Am I right? And you know that he has a wealth of knowledge up here. It came out in the 2 presentations we had this morning. Right? And so I want your full attention for him. And I'm just going to read the last line of his bio here, just to remind you who Dr. John Kelly is. He currently teaches lifestyle medicine using leading-edge intensive lifestyle medicine training programs in various locations nationally and internationally. You know what that is saying? We are blessed to have him here today. And so, without any more chatting, because I love a mic, I invite Dr. Kelly to come.
So much. Thank you for that generous comments. May they be true. So, I think I'm not at the, yes. This is the first slide. You know what I'd like to do? I know we've had prayer multiple times. I'd like to pray again because, in a way, this is the most important talk I'm going to give to you. Perhaps the one tomorrow about a dream. Let's just pray together. Our Father and our God, we thank you for the gift of life. And you give not just 70, 80, 90 years, you give us an eternity if we will choose it. So bless us now as we talk about your work. Help us to understand how we can accomplish the task of preparing and equipping our churches, our church members, to give the loud cry to a dying world. In Christ's name, amen. So I want to talk to you about the Start a New Me program, which God has led in the development of, I believe, in a wonderful way. This is not the only way to do this. This is one of the effective ways. And because of my training in epidemiology and biostatistics and my background in computing, I have the data to show you how effective it is or is not. And that's, there are many wonderful programs we have in the church. but they're not all of them have been actually validated by looking at outcomes. When I was a resident working in the Veterans Administration hospitals in the U.S., I got the privilege of working with a program called Lean Vets. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting if we could look and see how much change this lifestyle program is veterans. And so with my computing background, I managed to find a way to get the data from the clinic where they were doing blood tests before these vets had taken the Lean Vets lifestyle program and afterwards. And do you know what the analysis showed? No difference. It was making no difference at all in measurable outcomes. Now, the people running it were questioned that. We had to do a little validation. But here's the thing. You know this expression, and I'm not a business major, but you manage what you measure. If you do not measure it, you cannot manage it. So, let's talk about it. Yeah, so in this talk I have no particular conflict of interest except that I was privileged by God to be the one that put together this program. Now this looks like it's not got sound. Is there any way, gentlemen, that we could see if we can get the sound for this? Let me start it over. Anyway, I don't want to spend much time, but this is a 1-minute video that's on YouTube. It was done by in Canada, and you can just by looking, you can see what it's done is they've put healthy people on the left and the same person in the video as having chronic illness. Oh, all right, thank you for the sound. Let me go back and start it over from the front.
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide. The average Canadian will spend their last 10 years in sick.
Aren't you glad we're not Canadian? So it applies to all of us. You know, one of the downsides to the amazing spread of Western technology is poor health. We've been a blessing in many ways to the world with all the amazing technology, but it has not been a blessing of health. So I want you to imagine, use your imagination. Imagine there was a diet that you could prescribe or you could use that would restore beta function in the pancreas. Now you may or may not be aware, but of course you know type 1 diabetes is a destruction or a loss of beta cell function, but type 2 diabetes actually leads to the same thing eventually as the beta cells become fatigued, tired, destroyed. Imagine that, a way of restoring insulin production with a diet? Well, first off, you do not have to imagine it because it's been done twice already in 2 different laboratories. It's called a fasting mimicking diet. Fasting mimicking diet. It's a diet, a way of eating that's periodic. You eat this way for a few days each month for a few months, and lo and behold, they've discovered that it restores beta cell function in the pancreas, and it's been studied in mice where they have been able to do biopsies of the pancreas and prove that the cells are being restored. In fact, what happens is we now know it's the dendritic support support cells in the pancreas that are induced to turn themselves into beta cells with a diet, with food. Listen, friends, the reason I'm telling you this is you don't understand, it's hard to understand the power of lifestyle change, especially diet. And that's the first part of my talk. I know I'm going to run out of time, but I'm going to try and cover what I think are the most transformational pieces of information. I'm sure I won't get to everything. So it was first published in 2017, 8 years ago. I bet you haven't heard of it, though. Maybe you have. I don't mean to take anything away from it, but it's not common knowledge. But I know an increasing number of lifestyle medicine, Adventist lifestyle medicine doctors that are using it with their diabetes patients. And while we don't have yet the studies of tissue to show that it's happening, the results in treatment appear that the beta cell function is either being restored or they did it in this study that from California lab, and then they did it in another one I'll just quickly mention. But anyway, they use mice, and they have a 4-day fasting mimicking period that mimics fasting, but provides nutrients with minimal calories. So it's the body acts like it's a fast, but without the loss of nutrients. These called cycles, then, that they have multiple. I'm going to show you. Let me just jump ahead here to. I want to show you that. I think I have it here. No, I guess I don't. But anyway, they would do 4 days of this fasting mimicking diet, and then they would have 2 weeks between, and they would do another phase. Found that after just three phases, 3 cycles, that the results were found to have changed the gene expression in these cells and turn the support cell into a functioning beta cell. I mean, it almost sounds like a miracle, right? I mean, we thought, I did a biochemistry and molecular biology undergraduate degree, and I actually did put firefly genes into E. coli bacteria in the laboratory myself. It is not complicated. Really, it is not that amazing. You could do it in your garage, unfortunately. And but my point I'm getting at is that it's amazing to think that a lifestyle change like diet could somehow induce our bodies to restore health. What was it that the young man said to Christ when he said, "What must I do to be saved?" And he says, "I fast twice in the week." You know, that was one of the habits that the Jews had, was intermittent fasting. Anyways, I got to move ahead here. So these, and now the next thing I'm going to show you is how can these things be? Okay, like Mary, okay, Lord, but the handmaid of the Lord, but how can this thing be that I'm going to have a son that's going to be the Savior, and I've never known a man? As far as we know, that's impossible. This seems like it's impossible, but look here. This is a study that was published in 2010 in the journal Cell. Cell is the premier journal for cell biology, cell research, for example, molecular biology, etc. So what they discovered was there was 3 what they call developmental factors. We now call them epigenetic switches. But they found these 3 developmental factors that if they were to activate these in the cell, it would change a fibroblast, that's a skin cell, into a working heart cell, a cardiomyocyte. And they expressed the specific markers, they acted like, they functioned like they were heart cells. So here's a fibroblast. Change the gene switches, and the cell turns itself into a heart cell. Now, that seems like a miracle. I'm going to show you, though, in a minute, why that's exactly what you would expect. That's exactly what we would expect. What does that mean? So, they were directly reprogrammed. All right. Now, this is a picture of the capital Majuro in the Republic of the Marshall Islands. this is from the window of the hotel where I stayed when I was doing research there. And across the bay over here is the building for the Nidagella. That's their parliament. Somebody has to go. Anyway, these are some of the research pictures. I don't know if any of you recognize this gentleman here. This is Wes Youngberg. He was helping us with our research. He was at the time working in Guam, but now he's got quite a practice of medicine in Temecula, California. This is the compounding pharmacy, also known as the kitchen. You can see them compounding here. Anyway, some of you might recognize this lady. She's Brenda Davis. She's been called the grandmother of veganism, although she doesn't look that old. I don't have time to tell you stories. This is what I'm dying to tell you, but I'm going to pass it up. And of course, these were just some of the Marshallese help that we had that were helping in the kitchen. Now this, we did not teach these people to do their exercise on these exercise machines. We used these machines to measure their fitness. We taught them this amazing form of exercise. I'll just demonstrate it to you. So you stand with your feet sort of across from each other, and you just move one foot and then the other foot. It's called walking. We taught them to do this low technology exercise. It is, by the way, we have inspiration that says it's one of the best forms of exercise. Did you know what the very best one is, according to Spirit Prophecy? Farming. She says the farmer has the best exercise program because it uses all the muscles. Like, where's the sister that was showing us? She's not here. Oh, I'm so disappointed. But I was watching what all she did with that hoop, and you could see that she was exercising almost every muscle with that. And she made that look so easy. You know, I do that and it just falls on the floor. Anyway. So this was the first result, the first group that we did there in the Marshall Islands. And this is the morning, well, you can see, it's morning and after the morning exercise and then after the evening meal. So there's 3 for each day, 10 days, first 10 days. And you can see what happened if you know how to read the regression. It was a 74 milligram per deciliter drop in their blood sugar in 10 days. That's 7.4 milligrams per day. In fact, when I first showed this in Honolulu at a medical conference, some of the doctors, the diabetologists, they came up and says, "What did y'all do? Did you use an insulin pump? You know, how did you do that?" I said, "No, the 2 people that were taking insulin, we had to stop because we were using a more effective method than insulin pump." So what's that? I said, "Food." Another illustration, this is where when I first left Loma Linda, go back home to the country in Virginia, the countryside. This was where we had our outpatient practice. We were using the CHIP program as our main intervention. I want to show you, though, a case study. These are a couple of case studies. You know, this is just a simulation of an echocardiogram. This is like the ultrasound we use to look at the baby. This is the ultrasound used to look at the moving heart. Okay. So I want to tell you about a case here. This is a gentleman, happens to share my name only because he's my older brother, and I have permission to tell you about his history. So he, a very thorough doctor, gave him an evaluation with a stress test, and his meds were above 11. So, in other words, this man was pretty fit. But at the top end of his stress test, there were changes she observed in the EKG and said, "You should check that out. Something's not right." So he goes to a cardiologist, Dr. Spady, and he gives him the following diagnosis. After reviewing everything, we've recommended he undergo coronary angiography with intervention if indicated. In other words, they're going to take a look at his arteries. If they find a blockage, they're going to put a stent. Well, my brother was a little bit like me, kind of stubborn and independent, and he did a little online research, and he said he found out that 1 out of 500 stents have a problem, and that's why you have to do them within 10 minutes of the OR. Because if you burst the vessel, you don't have long to get that person's chest open. And so he said, I don't feel bad. I don't have any symptoms. I'm not going to take that risk. And you're a lifestyle medicine doctor, and I want you to tell me what to do. And I said, well, listen, first thing is you have a serious condition, and it could kill you. So I would take it seriously. And he says, no, don't worry, I'll become a vegetarian. Now, he was a Mormon, not an Adventist. And I said, well, that'll be no problem. Beer and pretzels are vegetarian. And I was teasing him a little, but he was friendly with those things. And he said, no, I'm really going to do this. So he became a vegetarian, really did. And his cholesterol may have dropped 30 points, still well over 200 and something. So he came to us and stayed in our home while he went through our outpatient program. And he went through 2 back-to-back, 2 times. And I sent him to the cardiologist to get another checkup. And here's what the second cardiologist said. He said the echo portion of the test was negative for ischemia. Patient has done well with lifestyle changes. Continue with diet and exercise and aspirin. Now, these stories, when you tell them, you have to tell enough detail to make them fun, or else there's no point in telling them. So I got to tell you that afterwards, Dr. Austin came and I were communicating. He says, John, I'm not sure that your brother ever had any blockages. That's how sure he was that they were irreversible. He decided they were artifactual. So I got a hold of Spady. I should have had all 3 of us on the phone at the same time. It would have been fun. But I got a hold of Dr. Spady, the previous cardiologist. I says, the cardiologist is wondering if that might have been artifactual. He says, that's ridiculous. He says, I have the EKG. I have the echocardiogram. Let me send him to him, and he can decide. But anyway, in other words, Dr. Austin had never seen this occur in a over 65-year-old retired Caucasian male. But every time I show these kind of things, I always have people in the audience that say, but Dr. John, I've just got bad genes. Well, you know what? We inherit something besides genes from our parents. Cookbooks. Yeah, cookbooks. Yeah, and remote control and anyway, entertainment centers. Anyway, so yes, we do inherit genes from our parents. That is true. And people used to be real clever and say, you can't choose your parents. Well, let me tell you about this copy. The whole issue of Time magazine, you can't probably read it, but this was back in January of 2010, a long time ago. They were talking about the new science of epigenetics and how epigenetics reveals that the choices we make can change our genes. And what does that say? And those of our kids? Now you ought to be really skeptical about that comment. I'm going to show you that that's a fact, however. So, all right, a little history. Actually, that's what I love about it. I like to give talks where I show you what you already know in a way that makes you understand it in a way you never did before. So this is stuff you know. This is Watson and Crick receiving the Nobel Peace Prize for their discovery of the structure of the molecule of inheritance, also known as DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. That's a mouthful. I want to point out something to you may not be aware of. Now, you know, of course, that it's this double helix, but did you know that these 2 strands are not attached to each other? You look and you can see there's a gap in each one of these pairs of nucleosides. There's a gap. They're not literally bonded. And the reason is that to transcribe the DNA into messenger RNA, the polymerase has to actually separate the two strands as it zips up the molecule and produces the messenger RNA. So anyway, I just think it's elegant. But of course, I did do biochemistry, and I found that very exciting. All right, another piece of history. This is Dr. Francis Collins, a much younger one. That seems to happen. You know, so many times I go to a conference and I'm like, oh, that's the speaker. I thought they were about 40, but they look like 60. That happened to me, and I had to recently take some more pictures, so I look a little closer to my real age. But anyway, he was in charge of the Human Genome Project for the NIH in the US, and they sequenced the human genome and published the first iteration in 2010. There was 3 billion of those base pairs. Those things on the ladder that I was showing you, I think of it like a twisted ladder. Anyway, 3 billion. Do you have any idea how big a billion is? It's bigger than a million, right? Yeah, which is bigger than 1,000. Someone has estimated, and by the way, that's in every cell. And so there's trillions of cells. Someone has calculated, I haven't done the arithmetic to check them out, but they said that there's enough DNA in the human body, in one human body, to reach to the moon and back. It may be so, because each strand, each genome is about 2 meters in length if you put it end to end, about 6 feet. So, now, another little lesson that you learned probably in middle school, maybe sooner than that. While you think about what are those little creatures, where do mammals come from? We're mammals. We came from a biological egg. We call them ovum, or ova for plural, and a sperm. So our biological mother and a biological father had these myocytes that, for reproduction, their only fate is either to come together and make a single cell or they die. It's the only two things that can happen to them. They come together and make a zygote, we call it. And that one cell now has half of its chromosomes from the male, half from the female. It begins to divide. And then each cell that it produces divides, right? So we multiply by dividing. And after, in the case of human beings, in your case, my case, 9 months later, we're born, okay? And what I want to ask you is, since every cell in our body came from that one cell, how does it produce such different tissues? How come some of it produces hair? Well, not in my case, but in most cases. I'm losing, well, my hair is falling, they say. It's getting down on my neck more and less on my head. But at any rate, it's because every cell in our body contains all the genes. So all you have to do is change which genes are turned on and off, and you can turn one cell into another cell. It's really simple. And so it's not nearly as magical as it seems to turn a skin cell into a heart cell. We just need to know where the switches are. Well, what Francis Collins has said about that is that task is orders of magnitude more difficult than it was to sequence the genome. There are literally billions of switches on our genes. I don't know how many of you might have taken chemistry or biochemistry in college, but when I did it in 1996, 7, and 8, 93 and 4. They were calling part of the DNA junk DNA. That was a term. They taught us. It's junk. We don't use it. It's a vestige of evolution. Wrong. We now know that it's switches. The DNA is capable of determining which genes are turned on and off. It's not wasted. It's not vestigial. Anyway, so let me quote an expert, recognized expert. She says we do not inherit just DNA. What we inherit from our parents are chromosomes. And chromosomes are only about 50% DNA. The other 50% are these proteins and molecules that actually are called chaperone proteins. And what they do is they turn the genes on and off. And I won't go into it too much, even though I love it. I am going to show you one more thing. Let me show you this, because I feel like we have to make this conclusive, that you are thoroughly convinced what I'm saying is true, not because of me, but because of the science. So I want to show you something. Do you know what monozygotic twins are? I abbreviated it MZ. Monozygotic twins, one zygote. It means these are two people that came from one zygote. And it's called identical twins. And what happens is, during the first few weeks or days of the zygote becoming a morula and a blastula, the different stages of growing in size, if some kind of physical trauma to this organism, this growing mass of cells happens, it can split into two parts. It can rarely split into three parts. And you can have identical triplets, but that's very rare. What usually happens is identical twins. So it's a wonderful way to look at two people that have the exact same DNA, right? Okay, so it gives us a great opportunity to look at something. I just love, human beings are amazingly smart. I mean, we don't know very much, but we are really smart. And as you get older, you'll understand that statement. But anyway, so what they did was they took 3-year-old twins, twin A and B, they're identical twins, and they looked at 50-year-old, not the same, okay, not 47 years later, but another set of 50-year-old identical twins, A and B. And what they did is they looked at this is a gel electrophoresis. This is where they're actually separating the proteins that are being produced, which is a way to know which genes are turned on. And look, there's some differences here at 3 years of age, but not much. But look at the differences by the 50. And keep in mind, these two people have the same DNA, and they're making that much of a difference in the proteins, so their genes are turned on and off in a very external influences upon your body. And what is the one that has the greatest effect? It's in this slide. The one that has the greatest effect is food. Now, I don't know about you, but I find it interesting to contemplate and consider how this science is fitting in harmony with the Bible story. Because what was it that got us all in such trouble? Food. Well, actually, it wasn't. It was actually, I would say, unbelief. It was unbelief. But unbelief is often expressed in food choices. I can attest to that personally. So the genes are turned on and off by these environmental influences. In fact, there's a whole science called nutrigenomics that has had very little success, but it was a wonderful idea. The idea was that when they discovered that food had such an impact on gene expression, immediately someone said, well, let's design some nutrients to turn on and off the switches that we want. Well, it's not that simple. Turns out that the gene switches are like a combination lock. There's multiple locks on the door that you have to change. And so this nutrigenomics still exists, but it's not going anywhere. Dr. Campbell is the one I heard best express it, and he said there's so many network and cross connections that this doesn't work. It's too reductionistic. Anyway, what else is there? Oh, we start life with the gene switches that were set while we were in the uterus. In fact, did you know that the gene switches that you were born with weren't even all set while you were in the uterus? You came from an egg and a sperm. The egg was formed in your mother's womb while she was in your grandmother's womb. So that egg was formed in my mother's ovary while she was in my grandmother's womb. And so the effect on my grandmother were driving the switch choices of the ovum, because those cells are formed all of the eggs that a lady has for her entire life are formed in the first few months of embryonic development. There's hundreds, so don't worry about running out. But anyway, whereas sperm is formed, as you may know, on an ongoing basis. But anyway, so some of the switches that I was born with were really set by the lifestyle of my grandmother. So that's why they said that your lifestyle choices can change the genes of your kids. All right. I want to show you about 3 studies real quick. The first one is with mice. Here we have a regular old field mouse, and here we have a special mouse worth lots of dollars. This is called the agouti mouse, and it has been worked on for a long time to develop this line of mice for testing. What they've done is they have put into this mouse the transgenerational genes for obesity, heart disease, hypertension, so that they can study medications and treatments for those diseases in mice models, okay? It's a lot easier to get mice to do what you want them to do than a human being. Plus, it's not considered moral to do these kind of tests in human beings. So, while the guys that were working on epigenetics were trying to figure out how could they test their hypothesis, it really looked like that you might be able to change the gene switches in a positive way while the child was in utero by feeding the mother a special kind of a diet. And so they came up, well, let's try the agouti mouse. And so what they did was they took these mice, they fed them a special diet that was known to turn off the genes that had been engineered into them that were turned on. So they fed them a special diet, and when the baby was born, a history was made. Now, if this was a human situation, it would be, that's not my kid. I want a paternity test. Well, they did it. They did the test. This mouse from this mother has the same genes as she does. But they are, you made me proud, they are turned off. In fact, they were turned off so much that it doesn't even look like an agouti mouse. And, watch this, they found that the effects of this were evident for 3 to 4 generations, and these were not Christians or Bible students, they were scientists. Visiting the iniquity of the children on the parents to the 3rd and the 4th generation. And I love that it's in Exodus 20. Another way to call my colleagues' attention to the 10 Commandments. But anyway, so this is amazing. This is wonderful. It's astounding. All right, one more study. This one is in rats. These are in rats that are called wild-type rats. So these rats have nothing special done to their genome. They're just regular laboratory white rats. And what they did in this study, by the way, published in the Journal of Neuroscience in 2008, was they fed the mother, while she was pregnant, a high-fat diet. The theory was that if we have a high-fat diet, it may change the gene expression in the developing baby. Hold on to your hat. This is amazing. This is sobering, especially if you're still fertile, as we call it. In other words, able to have kids. I'm way past that. But anyway, so what they did was they fed the mother and they detracted down, and what this high-fat diet was doing is it had turned up the gene expression on chromosome 3 that resulted in additional neurons being produced in the developing baby's brain. What did I say? A high-fat diet changed the anatomy of the baby's brain. That's what I said. I just want to make sure you got it. I didn't want to have to wait for my dear friend Lloyd to tell you. It was changing the anatomy of the baby's brain. Those cells just happen to be the type that make up what we call the hypothalamus. You might think of it as like the innate behavior, the non-cognitive aspect of your decision making. And here was the profile that it produced. The difference was in these babies born to the mother when she had high fat compared to the babies born to her when she had normal diet, they had higher blood lipids. We need to put them on statins earlier. They had a higher food intake. They ate more calories. They had a preference for fat. Given a choice, they would take the higher fat food. Earlier puberty onset. They started menstruation earlier, having babies earlier, and they had a higher body weight. Now, an interesting comment was made on this study, by the way, when the Wall Street Journal health reporter asked the acting director of the American Heart Association in November, you check your calendar, you'll find out that they were meeting about the time this was published. And she said, this is amazing because it's so similar to a profile we're seeing more and more in children. So there's good evidence that this is working not only in rats. Now I want to go to men, a study in men. I don't know if we went up the chain or down the chain, but anyway, compared to rats. So this was a prospective single-arm pilot study. 30 men who had what was called indolent or slow-growing prostate cancer, most common cancer in men in the world now, worldwide. They didn't have surgery or radiation treatment. Instead, they got a comprehensive lifestyle treatment program. Basically, this was a study published by Dean Ornish in 2008, and it was basically the same program that he developed for heart disease that had been so effective in the 1990s. They took prostate needle biopsy. They actually took a tissue sample of the tumors at the beginning and at the end, 3 months. And from that, they were able to purify the messenger RNA. And so basically, they were able to see what genes are being transcribed and which ones are not. So this was sort of like a wiretap, if you will. And here's the bottom line. This is called a heat map. What this is, there's 30 columns, one for each man at the beginning, and 30 columns here, count them up, afterwards. There's a row for each different messenger RNA that they found, many of which they did not recognize. Some of them they did. And the color is dark when there's a lot of it, or light when there's not much. And you can look at this, most of us say right away, well, that's obvious, it's more, this side is lighter than that side. In fact, what happened when they counted it up was over 450 genes that were turned off or down, and about 50 that were turned up. Notice the light color there? No light colors here. So that one, on this man, this particular messenger RNA was increased by this lifestyle. But many of them went from whatever dark to light. Okay, just so you understand. Now, what were these guys being treated for? Prostate cancer. But wait a minute, it looks like it was a weight loss program. They lost over 2.5 kilograms during this time. Or maybe it was a blood pressure program. They almost dropped their blood pressure by 10 points, not quite. Or cholesterol. Now, they were not put on a statin. If you got that much reduction out of a statin, you'd feel pretty good about that. In other words, when you treat one condition with lifestyle, you actually treat all of them. In fact, you often treat things that people don't know they have. And you don't know they have. And they say, oh, I forgot to tell you about blah, 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 but you know, it's doing a lot better now. And I'm like, thank God. They didn't tell me, and I didn't catch it on the intake. Okay. This is Dr. Feinberg. He's one of the leaders in this field, Johns Hopkins Center for Epigenetics, and this is quoting him. He says, epigenetics is at the epicenter of modern medicine, okay? As a quote from his article in JAMA. And lifestyle has the greatest effect on gene expression of any factor discovered so far. That was from a paper in Nutrition, 2004. So, and this is the Girdle, the guy that did the study in the agouti mouse. Notice what he says. Epigenetics is proving that we have some responsibility, personal responsibility, for the integrity of our genome. Before we understood these gene switches, genes predetermined outcomes. Can't choose your parents. Now everything we do, everything we eat or smoke can affect our gene expression and that of future generations. Epigenetics introduces the concept of free will into our understanding of genetics. So, we as Christians, we knew good and well when they were telling us that you can't do anything about it. You're born with what you're born with. Did you know that Ellen White makes a statement? She says, the gospel possesses the power necessary to change the effects of our inherited and cultivated tendencies to evil. Without that statement, I don't know if I would logically be a Christian. If I can't fix it, why am I spending any time on it? But we can fix it by Christ at work in us. Not me, myself, but he will not do it without my choice. Anyway, I thought it was great. I wish I could, I should look up a way to get a hold of the man. I would love to talk to him about the spiritual implications of his statement. I bet he would be interested. So here's a little pictorial. If you're talking about health or good health being the phenotype, the outcome, that's the goal we want. What are the drivers? So you've got the DNA sequence. Yes, you really can't do much about that, but it only has about 8% of the effect on your health. Medical care. It's nice to have great health insurance, but that's probably less than 10%. And the environment, we're talking here about tsunamis, hurricanes, whatever, that's only about 7%. The vast majority is under our control. It's not easy. I mean, I know. I used to drink. I used to smoke. I ate for survival and pleasure, not for health, for too long. But after I became a Christian and understood God's health plan, I came to understand the Bible as an operator's manual. That's how I looked at it. I read the book of Genesis and became a vegetarian. I'm kind of linear. But after all, there was a design, and the Bible says that he planned and designed the diet for Adam and Eve, just like a separate diet for the animals. I really like that. And so that's how it worked. Okay, I need to hasten the pace because now I need to show you, where's our time like? Oh my goodness, okay. All right, read fast. So they started a new Me program. Here's a schedule of what the 16-day program looked like. We use 16 days because we don't do anything during the daytime. The people are at work or whatever they're doing, but we have weekends and evenings. Weekends and evenings. In the second week, evenings and then weekend. We have graduation. We have blood tests before and after, and so forth. Here was our first group that we did in Grand Rapids, the second largest city in Michigan. The conference gave us permission to do an experiment using medical evangelism, and so we developed this program. There's some real heroes there. I don't have time to tell you. I mean, just looking at their faces, of course, I know them and I think about the amazing. This one here, I will say this one here, I think she was from Bermuda, but she's Caribbean, and she changed so much that her family, her grandchildren were saying they hardly recognize her anymore. That was her before picture, okay? When I saw her, I'll be honest with you, when I saw her after about a month after we finished the program, I wasn't sure that was her. She was a new person, and not just because she lost weight. Okay, so how do we do this in the churches? This program is done in the local church. It's a bona fide lifestyle medicine intervention, very much like one of the residential centers, but it's done in the church, by the church, and it includes a blood test before and after, just like a lifestyle program would in any of the big centers. Here's a picture of, so what we do is we learn some lessons from the ER. We put up some curtains to make individual booths, And in there, we have the equipment. So here, this is one of the lovely new Russian steam bath cabinets. And some shelves and water, place to sit. Here's another one. This one has a massage table. That tells me, because we didn't do massage, we did chair massage, but this was for fomentations. So we taught them to do contrast showers, hot foot bath, chest fomentations, and Russian steam bath, and charcoal poultice. You know, that's not everything, but that's enough to get you going. You can do an awful lot of good for people with those 4 things. There's the 2 heroes. Let me get their front. This is Joanne Rocker. She wrote a cookbook some of you may have seen. And that's my wife, Sally. And they are the ladies that were, you might say, the custodians of the equipment and so forth. Here's the result. All right, I'll probably have to end with this slide, unfortunately. So let me explain this to you. This is based on 23 health guests. So there was 2 different programs in here, in this. There's 3 columns for each measure. There's the yellow, the orange, and the red. The yellow is the average for all, beginning and ending, okay? 2 measures. The hash marks is the drop. The orange is the high-risk group. What does that mean? BMI greater than or equal to 30 was in the middle, okay? There were 13 of them out of 23. And the red is one person with the greatest percent change. So you can see how this works. As you go across here, the thing I tell people to say is, okay, look how much hash marks, how much change. The amount of change is almost as big as the part that didn't change. In other words, it's phenomenal. And look here. Here's we had high sensitivity C-reactive protein, glucose, insulin, HOMA-IR. Anyway, here's one. This person went from 373 triglycerides to 102. And how long did they take to do that? 14 days. It was the blood test, 16-day program, so it's 14 days apart. How about this one, the glucose, 263 to 84. I mean, here's one, the SF36 it's a measure of quality of life, and so a higher score is better. So the hash marks are green. This person went from 28% to 77. The threshold is 75. If you're above 75, you're a normal, person with good quality of life. So I have the next chart. I'm not going to explain this to you. I'm sorry I had to show this. But the bottom line, I'm just going to tell you this. This is comparing the Start a New Me program, 112 people, to 4 residential programs that I collected data when I was a resident, and I just pulled them all together. There's 129 health guests at residential centers and 112 in the church. And so this is the change. So there was a 0.28% change, and this was a 0.19% change. We don't want a lot of change in weight, okay, all at once. But there's a p-value of 0.000. In other words, this is very statistically significant difference, and you can see this is actually basically twice that. Here's cholesterol, 1.19% change per day compared to 0.65. Again, just about twice as much and significant p-value. Anyway, so the point is the dark green is always considerably more drop than the gold or whatever that is. So what I did this for is I wanted to help us see that we're not losing anything by doing this in the church. I mean, a lot of times when you do stuff in the church, it's not done that well, doesn't have much effect. But here, no. It works, and it works as effective as residential programs as far as we know. I'm certainly happy to have 1,000, to look at 1,000, but at 100 and some should be sufficient. Okay, where does this come from? Where do we get Start New Me? It's from Ministry of Healing, page 127. same place that New Start came from. But like I told you earlier, being old like I am, I was a young person at Weimar when New Start was born. And Ernie turned abstemiousness into temperance. He called it temperance. You'll find that in New Start there is no abstemiousness. By the way, with all due respect, brother, abstemiousness is actually not avoiding things that are harmful, it's avoiding everything. It's fasting, basically, if you look at up the old. So now fasting is a recognized part of lifestyle intervention, and we had it before the lifestyle medicine people ever had it, and I don't want to lose it. So we put an extra A, we call it abstinence, and that's why we have 9. So let me show you how they come together. So basically, this is sunshine like always, right? So you've got start and you've got new. You know where those come from. So the abstinence comes from abstemiousness. So we have abstemiousness giving us abstinence and also temperance. And we found out that this suffix is available, .me. I was like, that was a godsend, because start anew, .me. And I checked with my good friend and colleague, Dr. Nedley at Weimar, and they and they're legal people, and they have no concerns about this being interfering with their brand, New Start. New Start and Start Anew Me will not be confused in the marketplace. So we have to stop if I'm going to be faithful to my friend and colleague. So while he comes up, walk slowly, very slowly, please. You remember this? So what I want to show you is that there is a doctor, Dr. McMahon, who looked at the question of, are the principles that Ellen White put in the book Ministry of Healing, are they plagiarized from the 4 doctors that she read, or was it divine? And he showed that it was actually inspired, not acquired. His book's title is called Acquired or Inspired. And here's how he did it. It's explained right here. Basically, if Ellen White was randomly plagiarizing ideas from other authors, okay, let's imagine that's our hypothesis. We're going to prove that it's false. Then when you look at the verification rate of the things that she wrote, it should be equal in essence to what she borrowed from. If it was different, then she was guided somehow. Well, let me tell you, she wasn't guided somehow. She was guided to the extent that there's 11 standard deviations of difference in the validation of what she wrote in Ministry Healing and the books that she borrowed from. And so I'm just summarizing the slides for you here. And the things that she wrote that none of them put in their books had the highest verification rate of anything. So Ellen White definitely did not plagiarize, number one. Even legally, it's not legally considered plagiarizing because she told us she did it. Look in the introduction of The Great Controversy. She says, I don't know the verbal, she said, basically, I don't know medical terminology. I don't know the terms. So I take what I read from these educated doctors and use that because of the language and the wording that they explain it. And so I believe in the remnant church because Revelation tells us that it will keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. In Revelation 19:10, the testimony of Jesus Christ is the spirit of prophecy. So if you don't believe in Ellen White, you have 2 problems. One, you don't have the remnant church because the remnant church does have a spirit of prophecy gift. Number 2, you have to explain how this false prophet can be so obviously led by God. And if you're going to be intellectually honest, you need to solve both problems. I'm a very logical Seventh-Day Adventist.
Wow. We have a few minutes. You've been so generous, and we're going to take probably 1 or 2 questions. If you have a burning question. Okay, 1, 50%. I'll take another one after.
My question is extremely simple. How do you get something like that into a church? Simple question. Start Anew Me, how does that go into a church?
Here's a simple answer.
Well, let me tell you, this is a man with some insight. This is a man with some insight because that was the hardest piece of all, okay? So what we did, I'll tell you what though, it was easier than starting the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. Starting the American College of Lifestyle Medicine just about killed me. But getting this into the churches in Grand Rapids, it was hard, but it wasn't nearly that bad. So what we did was we held some meetings in the churches, because this was not a one church thing. It was for the whole district. So we wanted to create a team that the whole district had members of, so that way we wouldn't wear out one church, and they would say, well, we're tired of this. They were sharing it. And so each one of the programs we did had people from more than one church involved. So we had the leading churches, the main central church, and then some of the others, the larger ones, and we did a Sabbath afternoon program, and we showed some of what I showed you. I mean, there's a couple of things I've showed you that are truly transformational. I believe the one on the gene switches, it blows your mind. It just convinces you that yes, food has tremendous healing ability. The other one I didn't show you yet, I'm probably not going to get to, but is on neuroplasticity. And we find out from neuroplasticity that when it says be ye renewed by the transforming of your mind, God meant that in a very tangible way. But then we followed that up by some informational meetings, and had everybody who was interested in learning more would come, and we scheduled training. So we had sessions so they would sign up and say, okay, I would like to help, and I'll work with the kitchen. I'll sign up, and I'd like to give hydrotherapy treatments. I'd sign up and do this or that or the other. We have a training curriculum. I mean, this took thank God for my background in IT, because I'm used to documenting everything and how it works. And so we documented for them and had these training classes, and we had a rule. You could not be a volunteer if you didn't take at least one class, training class. And so anyway, long story short, after we used Sunday afternoons for doing most of the training, and we trained our crew, if you will. And then we had a flash team. What is a flash team? You know what a flash choir or a flash whatever, that's right. You're right, all these people just come out of nowhere and they start doing their thing at the train station or whatever. We had a flash team, and what it is these are people I know from the years of working in this field who are very competent. Some of them have produced their own training materials on DVD, and they are willing to come for 2 weeks and give me 2 weeks to help do this program. The first one. So the first one, I had these experienced people that would oversee the trainees, because I couldn't do that all by myself. And we divided the church spaces up into the booths, and we did the program. And after the first one, it was a lot easier, because there were some who truly, I don't know why, doubted it would work. But I mean, to be honest, I was wondering, I'm praying, right? Oh, Lord, this first one is the most important. It's got to succeed or the whole thing is going to fall apart. And so that's how it went. We did 3 churches where my wife and I were leaders in helping organize it. And the fourth one, this is what's so proud. The fourth one, the churches, that district did on their own. They organized it. They put it together. They did ask us to come and kind of consult and oversee. But we weren't in charge of it. And that was a proud moment, because as a grandparent is when you really feel like you've done something useful. When you can see some decent grandkids, that's satisfying. Great question.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, no more questions. Big round of applause. All right, before we have our final prayer, we're going to have a quick recap. We're going to probably walk out of here at 5:30. So this morning we learned about lifestyle medicine, what it really is. Please know how to define it, know how it's different from other modalities, allopathic medicine, conventional medicine, alternative medicine, functional medicine. Know what it is. Know the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. We talked about the power of intensive therapeutic lifestyle change. We heard from Eden Valley. And by the way, Kemar,
Your answer will come from that guy right there. It's going to be NCU that will be leading the charge and getting the churches ready to do exactly what you have asked and what John is doing. Yes, Tony. We will complement each other. So, and then we just ended now with, how we can do this work in our churches. Tomorrow, let me see the hands of those who texted somebody and invited somebody when I told you to. Your hand went up first, so you are going to get this book. Okay, we want to fill this room tomorrow. I don't know how, but we're going to make this man happy, Dr. Hussein. We're going to fill this room tomorrow. So students who are on campus, do you have like a Facebook page for campus, a WhatsApp page for campus? How do you communicate with students right away? Nurse Miller. Who? WhatsApp message. Put it there. If you are a student and you are free, come by. I wish we had some food for the students. Yeah, because they would come and say, it's going to be like free lunch, they will all be here. Okay, next year. Okay, but for this year, I want the room to be full. So tomorrow, we're going to hear from a doc called Dr. Mark Breman. He's going to start the morning.